All right. Welcome to Cogmind. This time it's owning the early game. We're going to be doing something a little different. By the end of this stream, you should no longer have to worry about being crushed in the early game, and can then go on to the more complex mid game where things really branch out and you get to start a real build. So to get this out of the way, what is the early game in Cogmind? It's everything before you reach Factory. So the first 3 depths. The Factory starts at the 4th depth that you reach. So the tactics that you learn in these first few floors, they make it so you can reliably get through every run. And they'll contribute to much better results throughout the rest of the game. So learning these first few floors and how to really win at them will help you in the long run. So this could help even some of you who can already make it to the Factory sometimes. Your mid game will improve a lot as well, I hope. So first, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, whoops, what is that? Oh, okay, here we are. Back in the right window here. First, I'm going to do an introduction to the interface and some basic mechanics. And then we're going to make several slow runs through the early game, and I'm going to share some survival strategies with you. And at the end, after having covered all these basic strategies, I'll put it into action with multiple quicker runs through the entire early game, probably covering some other related topics. But I'll go through a bunch of quicker runs, and you can see how the early game, when you apply these strategies, is actually fairly easy. So if you want to skip to a specific section of this, I'll put some links down in the YouTube description later when this is on YouTube. Right now I'm just streaming it for everyone who shows up. I do have the chat window open right now, but sorry, in the interest of keeping this as concise and focused as possible, I'm not going to start checking that until later when we're in the later segment of the video and I'm doing the quicker runs. Otherwise I get distracted with the chat and I want to kind of just move through all this stuff quickly. I'm going to talk pretty fast. Don't want to waste time. I'll also be taking questions later if we have any beginners with us, though I imagine that our regulars in chat will field those questions before I even see them anyway. If you have questions, just ask away in the chat. People there can answer, but I will be taking questions later on as well. And also later on, once I'm in chat, the regulars can also chime in to remind me of certain mechanics or strategies that I might have skipped over or not even addressed, since I'm not really running on a script here or anything like that. We're gonna go with the flow past this beginning part where I'm gonna go through the whole interface real quick. Okay, so about control, I'm gonna be using the mouse. In Cogmind, you can use the keyboard for everything. But if you're just starting out, you'll probably want to stick with the mouse for a while, just gradually learning keyboard commands if you want to. You don't even have to. You can just use the mouse. So yeah, when you first start the game, if you're not sure about any commands, you just press escape. All the basic commands are listed here for what you can do with your mouse, left-clicking, right-clicking. Same thing in these other windows. Don't forget to check the other windows. Like this over here shows you all the things you can do in this window here and down here, and this kind of describes what these are as well. And later, once you really want to know what all the keyboard commands are, you can click on here, Advanced. This gives you a lot more commands and details. You don't need any of this stuff normally. This is really if you're going to want to go full keyboard, or you're pretty good with the mouse and you want to start learning a few keyboard commands to make certain things faster. The keyboard overall is a little faster than using the mouse for some things. But technically, even some experts love to use the mouse or play hybrid. You have some things you prefer keyboard and some you prefer using the mouse. And this gives you all the full details. And there's a lot of repeat commands here as well, things like you can do in a lot of different ways. There are many different ways to do the same action in Cogmind for different people's preferences, and it's already works that way naturally. You don't have to change the commands. So, okay, so when you start though, it'll just be basic. Okay, so let's see here. All right, so the main interface, pretty obvious. This is your map, this big area here. This is your message log in the top left corner. You can actually click the message log anywhere. There's a little plus here, but if you just click it, it opens to the full size. And you can scroll through and everything. But right now we don't have any messages because we just started. Just these startup messages. But when you click it, you can open the full size. And here's another log. This in the center top here is the multi-console. This actually has multiple states and you don't need to worry about that when you're first starting out. The way it's set by default is it's an extension of the log, so you can see this log line's here, and they'll transfer over to here, and so you can see more log at once without opening the whole thing. These other features, don't worry about them when you're starting out. None of that's important. Okay, so let's go down the HUD, though. The HUD is important. So we'll start at the top here. Core. Core is your core integrity, or basically it's your HP, your hit points, if you're familiar with other games, I'm sure. Currently you start with 250 core out of 250. There is no way to regenerate your core. You cannot rest. So the only way to do that will be able to reach new floors. We'll get to that later when you're evolving. So it's important that you keep this core covered, protected, and we'll get to how you do that later. Energy is how much energy you're generating per turn is over here, and your total energy stores. You use energy to attach parts, to remove parts, and fire weapons. Those are the basic things. There's other things you can use energy for, but that's the basic stuff. Matter is used for, we currently have 100 out of 300, so it's not maximized, but we'll get to that in a second. There's some matter on the ground we can pick up right there. Matter is automatically collected when you step on it. So for example, we can just walk right over here, and we acquired 37 matter. You can see in our log there, we now have 137. Matter is used to attach parts, and also to fire certain weapons, usually ballistic weapons. Basically, it's ammo. You can think of it as your ammo and your way that you attach parts. But it's got a finite supply, so you can run out. So you got to keep an eye on that. Next one is, so we'll talk more about some of these things later when they come into play. System corruption. This one you don't have to worry about pretty much at all when you're just starting out, because this doesn't really come into play until the mid-game. But technically, if this hits 100%, you can die. Only 2 people have ever done that before. It's pretty hard. Normally, the side effects of being corrupted will kill you before that. There's a lot of negative effects as you get corrupted, but anyway, don't worry about that when you're just starting out. Temperature. Right now we are cool. We have 0 heat. And this number in parentheses is the amount of heat that we can dissipate per turn. So that's 12.5 heat per turn. Now, heat is bad. You don't want to be hot. The hotter you get, there can be bad side effects. So you want to try and stay cool. Normally in the early game, again, this isn't usually a problem in the early game because there aren't a lot of ways to get hot. You will later, however, you can find certain weapons and that will make you very hot when they fire, and then you're going to need heat sinks. We'll get to that in a little while, but the idea is don't get hot. Stay as cool as possible. If your heat gets really high, it can really, really mess you up. But sometimes, if you really want to push it or you don't have a choice, you might end up getting hot sometimes. So we'll see how that plays out later. Movement is how we are currently moving. Our current movement is core. We have no propulsion. We'll get down to these slots in a second, but we have nothing attached. So we're just on core movement, which is kind of a vague thing. You're a vague amorphous Cogmind. We're not going to talk about the details of that, but we are moving fast. Without anything attached, just our core alone, we can actually move pretty fast. And we're moving at 200% speed, which means twice as fast as normal. Normal speed is 1 space per turn. So we can move 2 spaces per turn. So how much is a turn? Right here, we are on turn number 3, because we actually just walked here from the bottom left up to grab that matter up there. So we're on turn number 3. And as for example, if I move over to here, we'll see if it goes up or not. It did go up, so we were, the next turn is turn 4. But if we move again, it's not going to go up again, because we're actually moving faster than 1 per turn. We're moving 2 times per turn. And so to continue going over the HUD, this is our location. Lock is for location. We are currently at sub-level 11, the very bottom of the complex. And we are going to go up. We're going to go to the surface. The goal of Cogmind is to reach the surface, or one of many goals. And we don't know where we are, though. There's a bunch of question marks there. There are ways to find out where you are when you get to each level, but when you first arrive, you generally don't know what level you're on. Okay, so in this window here, under my cursor, above my cursor, I can't put my cursor on it because it changes the buttons, but in this little window here, this is the scan window. And you see things appear that are light treads. It's because the last thing my cursor was over were these things here. These are light treads. You can see things labeled when you put your cursor over them, and more info appears in that little box in the top right there. So an ion engine. You don't need to worry too much about the info below ion engine there, but what it is You'll learn those gradually. The 1 is its rating. The M5 has got a mass of 5, and E5 is it generates 5 energy per turn. And different types of items, like treads, they show T for time units. That's how many time units they take to move one space. And S for support, S20. So you can learn those gradually, though. That's something, once you become more familiar with the parts, that you'll get used to. All right, so evasion in the top, in the right side here. Oh, actually, before we get to that, labeling things. All right, these you can click on these buttons here, like parts. Click on this, and it'll label everything in view, all the parts anyway. And we can label on hostiles to label all enemies that don't have any in view, so it's going to tell us no hostiles to label if I click on that. Friendlies, we have no friendlies, it's your allies. If you eventually have them, exits. We do know where an exit is, so if you click on exits, it'll always it'll highlight that exit for you and label it. We don't know where it leads, though. That's why it's got question marks. Okay, so anyway, you can click on those buttons, or if you want, the shortcuts are written right here. 3. If you press 3, I don't even have to click on that. If I just press 3, it labels everything, and press 3 again to stop labeling everything. Or the labels will disappear after a while, but it takes a while. Okay, evasion over here. Don't need to worry about that too much in the early game. It just gives you a general idea of the chance of an enemy to hit you. Right now, it's 50% chance that they're going to miss us. But that doesn't take into account things like the particular enemy you're fighting. For example, if you're fighting an enemy with very good accuracy and weapons, they're going to have a higher chance to hit you. And there are a lot of other factors that play into accuracy. I would highly suggest you look at the list in the manual if you're really like a min-max player and you want to know exactly how to optimize your accuracy and evasion. So this is just, and it does give you a breakdown if you put your cursor over it. But you don't really need that. You can see all the details without opening it. This is just to explain what it all is. So right now we have an evasion, plus 10 kind of to the chance that an enemy won't be able to hit us because we're moving. We just moved the last turn and we're moving fairly fast. So there's a lot of ways to affect these factors that are in this window. You'll learn about those later as you play. Don't worry about it as a beginner. Doesn't matter. Okay, parts. This window here is called Parts. This is the entirety of what we have attached. All these slots are unused. We have nothing attached, but you can attach 4 types of items. There are power, propulsion, utility, and weapons. Power is actually the least useful slot. You will need power. I mean, you have to have a power source to power a lot of your other stuff, but you don't need a lot of power, so you won't need more of these slots for long. And propulsion is how you move, and it's also how you support other things. So if you don't have enough propulsion, you're going to move pretty slow because you can't support all the other things you want to carry. Utility is the most versatile type of slot. You'll be able to put all kinds of stuff here. By the end of a run, this is usually the type of slot that players have the most of. And weapons are obviously how you fight. We're going to get into more about builds and what kind of slots you want to evolve later. We don't have to worry about that now. It's a little bit early. But basically, we're going to get more of these slots. You can fill up this entire box with slots. And this whole big window will just be things you can attach and use. And there's a lot of combinations of ways to do that. In the beginning, you're not quite as versatile. You're going to be a little more limited. But we'll get to those details later. This is actually quite important in the top left corner of this window here. 0/3. Right now, we can hold only 3 mass, and we have 0 right now. But if what we're carrying weighs more than what we can support, we're going to start slowing down even more. We'll be overweight. So we'll see how that happens later. I'll show you when we get overweight. And okay, in the last window here, there's also some things down here. I'm going to show those to you later once we actually have some parts. But there are other features of this window which are quite useful, but they won't come into play until we actually have something attached. And the inventory down here in the bottom right corner. One thing I want to, before I forget to mention really quick, is that any items inside your inventory do not contribute to your total mass. So they weigh nothing. Yeah, it's gamey, but if you had to worry about mass in your inventory, it would be extremely problematic and complex, and it's just not very fun. So things in your inventory actually weigh nothing, even though when you attach them, they do weigh something. Now, that said, the way you expand your inventory, we can only carry 4 items in our inventory. It's pretty small. And so, like the top left corner here, this top left corner also has a general indicator of the status of our inventory, and that is we are currently carrying 0 out of 4 items. Now, that's a really small inventory. We're going to generally want to expand that, but the only way you can expand it is by attaching a utility, a storage unit, which is very heavy. So the storage unit actually kind of counters the fact that you can put a bunch of things in your inventory. All right, and so quickly to note, since I stream with a larger font size, so you can't see the bottom few lines of my screen here, but technically there are a few more buttons at the bottom. But I'll talk a little about those later. They're not too important, though. Well, you'll want to use them, but you don't really need to see them for me to explain how they work, and they're pretty obvious. But I'll get to those later once we actually have stuff in our inventory. So, okay, we are ready to start. All right. So that's the interface. We'll get to a few more interface things as we play, but that's really when you're playing Cogmind, you can see almost everything. This is why when you see a screenshot of Cogmind and you see someone's parts and all their inventory and a whole bunch of stuff, a screenshot really tells you a whole lot about how someone is doing. You don't have to see a bunch of different screens. And even when you're playing, you generally don't have to switch to a lot of different screens. You can see everything at once. All right, so let's move on to strategy. The next section is, normally you can rush through the first few floors of Cogmind in about 10 minutes or less. Now that depends on what you'd like to do before you leave, but we're going to be moving slowly for a bit. As I describe in a lot more detail, a lot of stuff we're going to encounter. So normally you won't start in this room for your first few runs if you're just starting Cogmind. You'll instead start in a small series of tutorial rooms. But that won't really change anything. I'm starting in the regular little, once you get past the tutorial rooms, you start in this room, which allows you to start a little more quickly, just gathering parts and then heading into the main complex. But just a quick note, even though I'm not starting with the tutorial, if you are just starting out into your very first run, try to pay attention to the flashing pink messages that appear in your log, since that is the tutorial, and it teaches you the most vital basics as you encounter new stuff. And those messages will teach you things later while you're playing, since a lot of those messages are context sensitive. Like the first time you see a machine, it'll tell you about how to interact with that machine. There's a lot of little things like that. So if you're afraid you might have missed some of those tutorial messages, note that if you go into the options menu, you can just toggle the tutorial. Oh, shoot, I just closed something. You can toggle the tutorial off and on. Actually, I should open that here. Where is it here? Toggle. You can go into the options menu here. This is the main options menu, and the tutorial is up here. I have it off right now, but you can just toggle it on and off, or off and on again if it's probably on when you start playing. But if you toggle it off and on, it'll reset the tutorial so that it won't start you in the tutorial map, but it'll reset all the messages so you can see them again. So that's something you might want to do if you missed them. Or you can just pop into our Discord community and ask all the questions you want. People there are happy to help answer, and I help answer if I'm around as well. So a lot of ways to answer your questions. But the tutorial does cover all of the stuff you really need to know. So it's good to pay attention to those. But I didn't want to put them, a dev comment here. I didn't want to make the tutorial one the kind where it pops up a box and it gets annoying and gets in the middle of your play. I ended up just doing flashing pink messages in the log. I didn't want to make sure you had to see the message and click on it to make it go away, because that just gets annoying for some people. And then you also start to just ignore messages and just click on it real quick. Okay, so we are in the starting room. We are ready to start actually playing. Okay, so again, going back to propulsion, we need to have some kind of propulsion. So for beginners, I recommend legs. It's kind of the recommended beginner propulsion. So I moved over here to the leg. I clicked on myself because I was standing on the leg, and it's now in our inventory. And so we can just drag and drop this thing up here. You can put it up there in a specific slot, but if you just drag it anywhere and just drop it, it'll go right where it can go, where it's allowed to go, because you can't put a leg in your weapon slot. So we now have a leg. Notice that we are now walking. We're also moving more slowly because legs are a little slower. They're certainly slower than core movement, but we can now carry up to 10 mass. We can carry 3.5 times as much as we could a second ago, which is going to come in handy. We're going to need to carry more. So in fact, all right, here's another leg. Let's go. Click on that. drag it on. Here we go. We've got 2 legs now. We can carry 20 mass. We're going to need it in a second. But we move the same speed. Adding extra legs doesn't slow you down. It doesn't speed you up either, usually. I'll talk about the different kinds of propulsion later, but the reason I suggest starting with legs is that they're not hard to come by. You can get legs fairly often, and they also have a lot of integrity. So each of your parts can, let's see. All right, when you right click on an item here or out in the open, it opens the item screen. And this shows all the item stats. Now you can click on a stat to get information about it. It just tells you like what they do. Here, these have a lot of integrity. Integrity reflects the amount of damage a part can sustain before it is destroyed or rendered useless. Legs have more integrity, which means when people are shooting at us, it'll take longer for them to blow off our legs. Now you can imagine if you're carrying a bunch of stuff and the enemy blows off your propulsion, you're going to have trouble moving, and that can actually be that's a very easy way to die in the early game. Really, actually anywhere in the game, it's an easy way to die. So especially for new players who don't realize this. So remember, keep your propulsion in good shape. You do not want to lose it. So legs are good to start with. And that's not to say later when you're a good player you won't use legs. All types of propulsion have their own relative strategies and things that they're better at. But so legs are good to start with. So treads, which are over here, you can actually pick up treads to start if you want. These actually have even more integrity. They have 140. If you click on an item, you can see the difference. Legs have 50 less integrity. You can compare items by clicking on multiple items in a row. But to go back to treads, they're very slow. We would move even slower if we were on treads. And so that's why they're not really recommended for a new player, just because you're going to have trouble repositioning for combat, and by spending a lot more time moving around, you're more likely to encounter more trouble. So legs are kind of a middle ground there. Treads are for when you want to go all out and just really destroy everything, and you have the confidence and the capability to do that. So they're a lot of fun, but they're not a good starting propulsion. And wheels actually are also in the starting room. These are actually a really good propulsion too, but notice their integrity. They only have 40. Each wheel only has less than half the integrity of a single leg. So these get blown off very easily. And again, if you lose all your propulsion, you're going to be a sitting duck and probably going to die. Not necessarily. I mean, you can get out of almost any difficult situation in Cogmind. It's pretty much impossible to completely die when you're a good player. You'll just not win as well. And it's challenging throughout. But the idea is, anyway, back to wheels. So wheels are fairly fast, and they also can carry a lot without being overweight. So when you have propulsion, there's a penalty value here. It's a lot of description. I'm not going to read it all. It actually gives you like the formula and shows you how that works. Again, clicking on stats gives you all the info you need. You'll want to do that when you first start out to get an idea of what all the different stats are. But in general, when you're overweight, you'll move even slower. But with wheels, the penalty isn't nearly as bad. So if you plan to be overweight, some builds are always going to be overweight, wheels are a good option to go with. All right, so let's pick up some other stuff. Let's go. All right, I'm just going to pick up a whole bunch of things here. We don't have to worry too much about what we're doing at the moment. I won't get into the details. I'm just going to pick up a bunch of stuff here. Ion engine, attach the ion engine. I will grab another ion engine. Here's a storage unit. Excellent. All right, check this out. We currently are carrying 3 out of 4 in our inventory. I'm going to take the storage unit out of there and put it into our utility slot. And check it out. We can now carry 6 items. So because we attach this storage unit, it is a small storage unit, so it can only increase inventory capacity by 2. But later you can find medium and large, and they're very heavy, but they allow you to carry a whole bunch more. So we can now carry 6 items in our inventory. So back to inventory, I'd like to mention another very, very important thing about Cogmind and surviving, especially the early game, but really the whole game, is always keep your inventory full. Like, remember, it doesn't weigh anything to keep stuff in your inventory, and you're going to need spare parts later, because all of your parts can be destroyed in Cogmind. There's rampant item destruction. Now, with good play, a lot of your parts are less likely to be destroyed, and you can avoid that. Especially later, you can avoid almost ever having parts destroyed if you're like a flight bot, or you just move really fast or stealthy. But combat bots are going to lose, more. And so you need to have replacement parts. So I'm just going to pick up all these other parts anyway, even though we don't really need these propulsion parts right now. I can't attach them, but I have space in my inventory and there's nothing else around. So I'm just going to put them in my inventory. Why not? All right, so I'm going to pick up that matter as well. And one thing I was going to mention is this whole start here, if you don't want to pick up all this stuff and think it's kind of tedious, there is an advanced option. Actually, you can drop into the advanced options out of the game. There's a text file. Maybe I'll show you guys that later. But if you drop into that, you can do what's called a quick start. And it'll automatically attach everything and pick up stuff for you and put you right next to the exit of this starting area. Okay, so before we go into the first floor, let's actually shoot something. This is a recycler. These little guys walking around here, green bots, they are not hostile. A lot of robots, most robots in Cogmind are technically not hostile. They're just running around doing their own thing. Like if we drop something right here, this guy's gonna come pick it up. Actually, let's do that. I'm gonna drop a wheel on the ground. Step aside. He's gonna come pick that up because that's what scavengers do. They pick stuff up, which can be good or bad. If you drop a good part and you're trying to like rearrange your stuff, these guys will run over and try and steal it from you. Or if you're in the middle of a fight and enemies are dropping parts, they're going to come and clean up the site. And so you can shoot them and they'll run away. So you can, if you don't want to fire all your weapons, like it's kind of unnecessary to fire all our weapons at this. We can also deactivate a weapon by clicking on it. You don't always want to fire all your weapons. We'll maybe get into a situation like that later. We probably will. So you can turn that off, and we can just fire the assault rifle by clicking on him. It shows our line of fire. This line of fire is red because we cannot actually see what we're shooting at. We're blocked, and the obstacle that's blocking us is flashing red. There's a wall in the way. Of course there is, and we know there's probably going to be walls on the other side too. But see, right now we've got the recycler's flashing red because he's blocking our shot. But anyway, we're going to just shoot the recycler. Click on him, and he's going to run away now. We didn't actually kill him, but if we wait, he will... well, he can't really have much anywhere to flee because we're kind of in this little area here. But anyway, so waiting, if you just use your scroll wheel on the map area, it waits. So I'm waiting here, and you can see other bots just doing their thing. Cogmind is turn-based, in case you didn't know, but you probably know that. At least that much. Before playing Cogmind, you probably know that. So these are excavators. They're going to do some stuff too. They're going to come in and dig out walls. Oh, here comes the recycler. He's no longer afraid of us because he kind of forgot that we shot him. He's going to come back and pick up that wheel. He picked up the wheel. Scavenger collects wheel. Anyway, but if we shoot him, we can get the wheel back if we really, really, really want that wheel. Now, here, that's not a problem because there's not really many places for him to run. But in the regular floor, if a scavenger picks up your loot and takes off with it, that could be a problem if he has good loot. And so you kind of want to shoo them away before they become a problem, or even just kill them, really. Anyway, so he's now down to 53% core. You saw a little 53 pop up real quick. That means we hit his core, and he's now half dead. Now, what does that mean to hit his core? His core is right here. He's already down to that's his exposure. His actually core integrity. He has 8 integrity left. He originally started up here, so we got him down to about half. Got him down to about half of his core integrity. Again, that's their hit points. And so, looking at enemy stats, core exposure. His core exposure is 39%. That means there's a 39% to actually damage his core. Now, if you don't damage his core, what you're damaging are his parts. These are the other things that this guy's got. This recycler has 4 components: a tractor beam, a small storage unit, a compact wheel, and a light ion engine. And this shows you here the chance to hit each of them to the right of it. So there was a 17% chance we would have hit his engine instead of his core or something else. But on that last shot there, we did hit the core, and that damaged him. He's pretty low now. Another shot will probably kill him. Now, about robot loadouts. This is actually important to know. You have their robot loadouts. Robot loadouts Cogmind are static. So every time you see a recycler, it's going to have these same parts. Unless it's a higher level one, but we'll get to that later. Anyway, so when you, for example, if you want a small storage unit, you can look for a recycler, shoot him, and he might drop it, because there's a chance that they'll drop any parts that they're using. How much they drop actually depends on what you're using to shoot them. If you shoot them with big cannons that are just annihilating their parts, they're actually not going to drop much. If you shoot them with electromagnetic weapons, they're likely to drop more of their salvage. So if you want, there's certain ways to go about salvaging enemies, but the main point I wanted to make was, if you're looking for certain parts, like you need a tractor beam, we can click on their parts and see what they can do. If you want a tractor beam, you can shoot a scavenger and get their tractor beam. Basic level tractor beam isn't so great, but anyway, here's what it does. It automatically collects matter within a range of 4. So you're moving along, and there's matter nearby, it just swoops it all up and you just get it automatically. You don't even have to walk over to it, which can be useful because you can, if you have a better tractor beam. Their tractor beam's kind of crappy, but again, we haven't even gotten into really the first floor of the game yet. So you'll get, the enemies have much better and more interesting parts, and later you got to remember, if you want certain things, hunt certain enemies that are common. If you don't have those things, honestly, the things you're going to find will generally be better than what the enemy has. But if you're, in a pinch, or if you really just want more of something, you can hunt down enemies. Like later, we're going to come up against sentries, which kind of just sit around and guard things. And they're strong. They have armor. They have armor, fairly good weapons. They have treads. So if you are a combat bot and you want these things, go take out a sentry. They're like a good source of early game armor if you want to put on some armor. Armor goes in our utility slot. Anyway, so that's enough from talking about that. He's now down to 6%. He's going to die soon. There he is. He's dead. He dropped his small storage unit. So we can walk over there, pick up storage unit, and check that out. We now have 2 storage units. We can now carry 8 parts in our inventory. So he also dropped matter. That is a very good thing about recyclers. If you need matter, recyclers actually drop a lot of matter when you destroy them. So we now have 227 matter. And he drops wheels too. We can just pick those up. We don't really need this many wheels. In fact, in a normal run, I wouldn't be picking up this many wheels. I'm just picking them up to show you. You can just want to keep your inventory full. Once you're better at the early game, you don't even have to worry too much about keeping this many redundant parts like propulsion. You'll want different parts and stuff. And so I would just leave this empty and fill them later as we get into the first floor in a moment. So to recap, always keep your inventory full and start with legs. Those are some of the basic things we need to know out of this. All right, so grab that last bit of matter. Here's a worker, a serf. A serf is a kind of worker. So when you open a robot info, there's serf. Their name is at the top. Their class is worker. That kind of defines their behavior, what they do. These guys walk around and pick up matter and stuff. You can learn what each of the classes do as you play, just from watching them, observing them, and you'll learn. Over time, you can use pretty much any bot to your advantage in some way or another. And these guys do a lot of other things, you'll find out later. Tunnelers dig tunnels. They're digging tunnels right now, going that way. But we're going to leave. This is going to take us to the first floor, while these guys are actually doing their own thing on this floor, but we're done here. Let's get started with the actual early game. So that was our intro. Good 30-minute intro to the entire interface and some super basic mechanics. We are now in the first floor. So, what do you really need from the early game in Cogmind? The early game, again, is just the first few floors. And I said you can pass through it in like 10 minutes. You can leave pretty quickly if you want to, even faster than that. I mean, you can speed run the game and win the whole game in 20 minutes. But that's not normally how you'd play. And anyway, so what do you really need from the early game? There's really only 2 things probably. And depends on your build, but in general, you want storage units. Small ones, not really. You generally want bigger storage units for most builds. Even flying builds that don't want to be too heavy will probably pick up a large storage. Anyway, we're not going to get into that, but just to carry extra parts until you transition. So stay focused here. You're going to want 2 things: storage and a launcher, some kind of launcher. Launcher weapons in Cogmind are very powerful and effective at certain things. You don't want to always be using your launcher. We'll get to that later once we have one. But they're basically, what I mean by that, a launcher is an area of effect weapon. You want an AoE weapon and some more, and as much storage as you're going to want for your build. So you can start shaping your build around the storage and how much inventory space you have. Those are the two things you want from the early game. There's a lot of other details and nuance there, but as a beginning player and even as a good player that's just out to have fun, those are the two things you kind of want to be on the lookout for. Other than that, you can just pass through these floors. So this is a machine. We are not going to do any hacking. You can walk up to this thing and hack it. Walk up to it, bump into it, or click on it if you're next to it. And it's a terminal. We can do hacks on that. Hacking is totally not needed in the early game at all. In fact, it's not needed throughout the game at all, but it's helpful. And it's a lot more helpful later, though. You don't really need it in the early game at all. So I'm not going to do any hacking of any machines. Don't worry about that until you can get to the factory. You can play with it if you want, of course, and you probably should. I mean, it's kind of fun to check out all the hacking options. Walk over, bump into it, opens this, and we can check our hacking options and other stuff. But I'm not going to do that. We're not even going to bother hacking it because that's just beyond the scope of what we're doing here, and it's not necessary for the early game. So we're going to go look for those two things, basically, storage and a launcher. But again, the main focus is to get out of these floors. So if we don't find them, it's actually not the end of the world. You can get by without them. Later as well, but it's just recommended that definitely pick those things up if you find them. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to do, again, this is kind of the middle section of this stream. We did the basic intro a second ago, and now I'm going to do some pretty slow explanatory runs through, at least one run through the first few floors here. And then we'll get to the faster runs, and I'll open up the chat window again. And so I can actually see who's here. Right now I'm just talking to myself, unlike usual where we'd be chatting and whatnot. All right, staying focused. When we first enter this floor, technically there are no enemies nearby. Cogmind protects you in the main floors. This is a main floor. We'll talk more about what that means in a little bit, but there are no enemies like in this whole radius here. So we're safe to explore this little area for now. But technically there could be enemies patrolling pretty close, and they could step around the corner. So you might see enemies quickly, but usually not. So anyway, let's check out what's behind this door here and walk over in front of the door. It automatically opens. There's nothing, but there's another door that heads off in another direction. So now we have a question. Do we want to head south or north? Okay. So I guess I'm not going to get into map sense yet. I'll talk about that later. I definitely do want to talk about it. All right. So let's just move. I'm just going to go north. So we go here. Oh, so a quick note. This is a completely like going with the flow explanation of the early game. I do not have. I don't know what we're going to see actually around these corners. I'm not playing a certain seed. I don't know what we're going to come up against. So we're just going to talk about whatever we do come up against. Okay, there's a hauler. All right, haulers. It's called a transporter. It's a type of hauler. There's another type of hauler later, a bigger one, later in the game. But in the early game, these guys carry stuff. So again, each green bot out here has its own little behaviors and functions in the complex, and they do their own thing. These guys kind of wander around, and they do a number of things, but they're carrying stuff. They've got a medium storage unit, which technically we could take from them and replace and get an even bigger inventory. So you can shoot these guys and they'll drop whatever's inside. They're carrying loot. So in addition to this, these are their components, but they actually have an inventory which is carrying stuff. They carry things around the complex. So we could turn on all our weapons here and fire at this guy and see what he drops. Okay. Well, that's a negative result of shooting green bots. So when you shoot enemies that aren't hostile, well, if there's actual enemies, if there are combatants nearby, they will send out a distress signal and call for help. See, a transporter sends out distress signal. And apparently there were some pests patrolling nearby. They were around the corner. And so he called help. He called for help. They showed up. They were just nearby, though. They can only call for help within a small radius for a distress signal. But then remember, like, if I shoot these guys too, they might call for reinforcements nearby, but only if it's nearby. You don't have to worry about it being from a distance. So anyway, all right. So we have to now fight these guys. These guys will shoot us. They're little flying guys. They're called pests. They're very annoying. They are the first variety of swarmer. You can see their class here is a swarmer. So As you can see at the bottom here, they are weak against explosives. So if we had a grenade launcher, these guys would die pretty quickly. But anyway, we'll get to that stuff later. They're pretty weak. They just have a light assault rifle, a flight unit, and an engine. They're just tiny little flying guns, basically. So, fighting enemies. How do you want to fight? So in Cogmind, as in most games, most roguelikes, you generally want to try and funnel your enemies through something as a defensive strategy. So if we fight right here, technically we can get shot by more than one enemy. So I would suggest in this case pulling back. There's another one. They're in a squad. Combat enemies move in squads generally. There's sentries will be alone, but most enemies come in squads and move and work together. So you got to be wary. If you see, oftentimes if you only see one or two of a certain type of enemy, you can guess how many more there are based on their general squad size. So in the early game, pests usually come in threes. So by seeing two, I actually knew there would be another one coming in a moment. So we know there's three. I'm going to pull back. And you see they're going to have to line up and come through here, which will make it much easier to take them out one by one. All right, so I'm going to pull to the side here, and wait a moment. If you have yourself diagonally to some kind of bottleneck, including a door, like for example, if you want to defend this door here against somebody coming from the north, stand either here or here. And what that'll do is the enemy will stand in the doorway and you can fire at them, but whoever's behind them can't push their way through the door. They're being blocked. So they're going to have to either wait or go another way around. So that is a very effective way to take out even large groups of enemies in the early game. What most people will do is, like you might do in a regular roguelike or some other games, is you kind of, as soon as you see enemies, you just stand there and fire. You don't want to do that in Cogmind. Reposition. See, like just now, I knew I was going to get shot as I retreated, but I didn't care because we have so many parts and core integrity compared to these guys. Enemies are very weak in Cogmind compared to you, for the most part. Obviously, you can meet some really crazy stuff, but you won't in the early game. The main danger to you is having lots of enemies swarming you, so you want to kind of prevent that. We are much more powerful than them, and in the long run, it's worth it to reposition and take some hits. It's fine. Because in the long run now, the other two guys can't shoot us while we're killing this guy. And if we do take him out and his friends come, they can only come one at a time until they find another way around, but we'll get to that when it happens. So right now, look at our parts here. So far, we've had our small storage unit was damaged. This here is integrity for each of the parts. They're all in the green. We lost a little bit of integrity. This small storage unit here is now at 133 out of 150, and the bar gets shorter here. So, and our core is still at max. We've been hit, but our core is not damaged. And in Cogmind, all that really, really, really matters is your core. You die when your core is destroyed. But you can lose parts, that's fine. We can attach more from our inventory. Don't worry about losing parts. Well, it matters to some extent, but as long as you're not losing too many too fast, you'll be fine. And generally, once you get much better at Cogmind, even though you're losing, your parts are getting damaged, you're going to replace them with even better parts before they're destroyed, probably. So, which is why when you look at a better player's score sheet, you'll see that they could have gone through an entire run and lost very few parts, because they were either taking out enemies very quickly, or because they're incredibly powerful offensively, or they had a lot of defensive measures, or they just kept replacing with better and better parts before they lost the old ones. Which is you can do that with good tactics. So, which is, for example, this is the basic tactic of Cogmind, is to stand diagonally where enemies can't come through. It's the easiest way to get through the early game without too many headaches. There are some exceptions when you don't want to do this, though. Again, if you always did this 100% of the time, that would be kind of boring. Maybe we'll probably see some situations where you don't want to do this. Like, for example, using EM weapons at short range, or if we want to use a launcher, or if we have penetrating weapons, there's a number of things that you don't want to do this. But in general, if you're just starting out, doing this all the time is probably a good idea. So now let's take this guy out here. All right, didn't get him. But see, the other guy's behind him now. That other pest is just sitting there. He can't shoot at us because his friend won't let him by. If enemies were allowed to swarm you in Cogmind like that, you would be overwhelmed a little too quickly in a lot of situations. So they don't let their friends by. They're pretty dumb. I mean, we know that. they're dumb AIs. They're called the Unaware in Cogmind lore. These guys are dumb. But if there was another way to reach you, like if there could be a secret door and they could head around and use that hidden door to reach you and get you in a pincer, and that actually starts to suck. So sometimes they seem dumb, and then suddenly they're going to kick your butt. So you got to be wary of that. But we'll get to the details when that actually happens. I'm sure it's going to happen to us before long, or eventually during this stream. So let's shoot this guy. He's going to die. At point blank, it's fine. You see he's damaged. We've been damaged now. In the early game, again, if we were in the open, these guys, swarmers can really tear you to shreds because there's a number of them. It's like you're being hit by multiple guns. Each of these is just a flying gun. Multiple guns every turn. So we're getting damaged here, but at least not much. And he's pretty damaged. You can see his label is now orange when it pops up when I'm clicking on him. And you can see in the scan window up here, it's orange. That orange dot there means his core is currently orange. So you can tell you're hitting his core. If you open it up, you can see he only has 2 integrity left. He probably should have died. We must roll the low damage roll for our weapons when we hit him. Or we only hit him with one of the weaker weapons. And there's a little exclamation mark right there to the right of my cursor. You can see it says, that exclamation mark means that this particular enemy in the scan window has spotted us. He knows we're here. So if, for example, we have very good visual range and we can see guys far away, they won't have the exclamation marks. They haven't even spotted us yet. And when they spotted us, a little exclamation mark popped up on top of them, so you could tell that as well. And it also tells you your base hit chance against them, 62. These are actually pretty hard to hit, which is why we only have 2 weaker weapons, and a lot of our shots will miss because they have high evasion. They're very fast and small. These guys, if you look at their size rating is small. So robot size lowers your chance to hit them. And so when I click on him, it enters firing mode, and you can see over here when I'm pointed at him, it shows the percent chance to hit him with each weapon, because sometimes weapons have individual modifiers. Look at that. There's a -1 next to the medium laser. I can't point at it and show you at the same time. It's a -1 right to the right of the medium laser. It shows that's because the light assault rifle has some recoil. So our medium laser has a slightly less chance to hit him. That doesn't really matter right now. I mean, if you have a cannon, it could have a ton of recoil and mess all your other weapons aiming up. But in this case, it's fine. I mean, we don't care about a 1% difference. So I'm just going to shoot that guy. He's now dead. He dropped some matter, and that's all he dropped, because we hit him a lot of times. Didn't drop much. And then we killed the second one, and the third one is dead. The third one dropped his light assault rifle. Let's take this light assault rifle, because we need backup weapons. One of the things you don't want to run out of certain things in the early game. Propulsion is the main #1 thing you don't want to run out of, because that allows you to carry everything. If you run out of propulsion, you're in trouble. And weapons, in the early game, you really need a way. You're going to have some unavoidable fights. You're going to need a way to kill some bots. And so you don't want to lose all your weapons. So definitely carry spare weapons, spare propulsion. In the early game, spare power is not actually quite as important in most cases. In the early game, you're less likely to run out of power. But as the game goes on, you need spare power as well. Always carry at least 1 spare power a little later on, after we've gone through a couple floors, for example. Spare propulsion, spare weapons. You want spare of everything, really, just in case you lose something. Utilities, that's going to be up to you and depending on your build. But we're not going to worry about the details of that just yet. So they also dropped 2 light ion engines, the last 2 that we destroyed. And so we didn't even kill the hauler. That transporter sent out a distress signal and didn't die. They're actually kind of hard to kill quite that fast. And if we had destroyed the transporter, it wouldn't have even gotten out a distress signal. So if you have powerful weapons, well, you can be more effective that way. So I'm just going to leave these ion engines. We don't need them. There's that transporter still. Let's shoot him again. Arc weapons are really crappy. This is really hard to destroy a transporter with these weapons. All right, and here comes the scavenger. Again, that's a type of recycler. We know what he's going to do. He's going to try and pick up all these weapons. I want that assault rifle. So what I'm going to do is just shoot 1 weapon at the scavenger to make him run away. Oh, there's 2 scavengers. I'm going to shoot the other one too. All right, now they're both going to be running away. Unless one of those... Oh, no. All right. All right, now they're all running away. Okay, so we can walk over, pick up some matter. All right, so we now have another spare. Oh no, that replaced our current one. Ha! All right. Our inventory is full. It's 8 out of 8. So I wanted to pick up that assault rifle, but it didn't work. What happened instead was, when I clicked on myself, Cogmind's inventory management actually is automatic and smart. So it noticed that our inventory is full, and we had a damaged assault rifle. So what it did was it automatically dropped our assault rifle and equipped the new one. So that's something it just does automatically. Just click on it and it'll do the thinking for you. Because that's a decision you would have made yourself anyway. So excellent. But our inventory is full, and technically we have a lot of extra propulsion we don't need. So I'm going to drop a wheel and pick up another weapon. Even though I picked up the damaged assault rifle that was dropped anyway. So we now have 3 spare weapons, in addition to our medium laser and our light assault rifle. Okay, so... Alright, so at this point I wanted to take a pause and do one more thing with the interface. Earlier I said I was going to tell you what these buttons do, and now we're going to cover that real quick. So to the right of all of our parts is more information. This is integrity. This shows the... this is a quick way to see exactly, pretty much, how much integrity your weapons have, your parts have left. So we can see our medium laser, our weapon here is damaged. It's missing some integrity. And once it gets down lower, it's going to turn yellow, and then orange, and then red. And as this changes, actually this color of this block will also change. But this is a kind of a quicker way to see a little more detailed how damaged it is. Now, what do all these other buttons do, though? They're actually pretty useful to switch back and forth between different modes, depending on what kind of information you want. This C here stands for coverage. When you click on it, a little coverage appears right there. And now these bars are showing something different. This shows the relative chance of each weapon to be hit when you're attacked. So when we're attacked, you can read coverage. I'd suggest reading this later to get a better idea of the details of the calculations or whatever. But the idea is the weapons and items and everything have coverage. This is 100 coverage. Alright, so this one has 100 coverage, which means it has a 17% chance to be hit. This has a 25 coverage. It only has a 4% chance to be hit. So our small storage units. Our small storage is less likely to be hit. You can see that reflected in the bar over here. Coverage. This is coverage. So our weapons are most likely to be hit when we're being attacked because they have the highest coverage. So yeah, this is very useful for seeing. You can press on that and see what's likely to be destroyed. So right now, if we're attacked, our weapons are more likely to be hit, which means they're more likely to be damaged and more likely to be destroyed, which is why we really need spares for those. In the early game, this is actually a common situation. Weapons will be probably pretty much your highest coverage parts, so you need spares for those. Unless we get armor later, and armor will make its armor bar go way high, and the coverage for everything else will drop, because your armor covers a lot of other parts pretty well. So there's 4 modes here. The second mode shows us how much energy is being produced or used by parts, but we don't have anything. In the early game, energy doesn't really play much of a factor, play much of a role. Don't have to worry about that. W is for integrity. Again, we saw this one earlier. I showed it to you already. This is what it's on by default, and a lot of people leave it on this. But all these other modes are useful. And the reason it's C, E, W, Q is these are the letters on the keyboard that you press. I tried to keep them as, like C is coverage, that makes sense. E is energy, that makes sense. W and Q don't make as much sense, but they're the keys used on the keyboard, and all these keys are right next to each other, or really close on the keyboard. So that's one, and they weren't used for anything else. So that's one reason that it works like that. Q, though, is info. That's a little further away on the keyboard, but oh no, the same. C was the far one. Anyway, Q is actually very useful, but it looks really cryptic when you first start playing, so a lot of people probably don't even use this, but a lot of the better players use this pretty often because this gives you at-a-glance comparison info for all of your parts. Again, remember there was the scan window up here, which shows those little abbreviated strings of numbers and letters. These do the same thing. And like 1 shows the rating of the part, the mass, and support, all kinds of other stuff. The damage, this is useful for your weapons. You can immediately compare their damage type and their actual damage without even opening the item info. Item info is useful, and you're going to want to open it when you're learning what the parts do. But just the basic stuff, you can just look at Q mode. So a quick note about parts. I was just talking about opening part info here. And when you first start playing, you're going to feel perhaps that you're constantly having to open part info and look at what they do. And that's going to happen. That's unavoidable. I mean, there's a lot of stats, there's a lot of parts, they do a lot of stuff. But the good thing about Cogmind is all of the items are static, which means once you've seen a light assault rifle, you've seen all the light assault rifles. Once you remember kind of basically what it does and or how it fits into builds that you like to make, you don't really ever have to open that info again unless you like to look at the art. So there's a ton of items in Cogmind, but as you play, you'll open this part info less and less until you almost never open it, because you know exactly what the parts do and how it works for you. So yeah, so that's a note about parts. They're static, just like robot enemies are static. There's a lot of things that are dynamic in Cogmind, so it's good to have a few things that are static that you can rely on and plan for. So that's one of them, is parts. You don't have to worry about that. So I just talked about these 4 buttons. Each of these buttons actually has 2 different states. The other states are a little less often used, but they're still useful. I'll just cover them real quick since I just talked about these. If you press each button twice, or again, the key on the keyboard, like C is coverage, but if we hit it again, it shows vulnerability, which is different. Vulnerability is kind of like coverage and integrity factored together to show you really what's more likely to be blown off first in combat. We're likely to lose our medium laser a lot more than anything else. So we kept fighting and fighting and fighting. Most of the time, we're probably going to lose the medium laser before we lose anything else. So we can actually use this mode to see what we're likely to lose, which kind of helps you plan ahead. We can say, well, if we're going to lose this medium laser, what do we want to do? And if that happens, I'm just going to attach another assault rifle. That's not a big deal right now, but later on, that can actually matter. All right, so energy. The other mode for energy is heat. If you hit energy again, it shows you heat mode. This shows the amount of heat either generated or dissipated by certain parts. We don't have any heat sinks right now, so we have no dissipation. Our engine generates a little bit of heat. The most heat would be generated from our weapons, but obviously that's only when we fire. But that's a lot of heat. Medium lasers are thermal weapons, which means, again, if we look back at Q mode, TH. TH is thermal. It's a shortcut for a shorthand there, abbreviation for thermal. That's a thermal weapon, so it generates more heat. More heat. Kinetic weapons don't generate as much heat. So there's a lot of balance that goes on there on your build, and you'll get into that, but we don't have to worry about it just yet. Integrity. The other mode is mass. This shows how much mass either is supported or used out of our allotment by each part. So legs, each of these supports this much mass, and each of the other parts uses that much of their support. Again, you can see that number here. This is kind of a quick way to tell. For example, I'm way overweight. What do I need to drop immediately to not be overweight, to increase my speed, to escape some enemies, or whatever you need to do? You can use this to check what's heaviest on you real quick without actually looking through all their stats. You could do that here, but it's slower if you want to look at the mass. This is kind of, but mass is a very important stat in a lot of ways. So it's also included in all of the items info, except for legs because they don't have mass. That is a good point. I should mention that propulsion items have no mass. That was a decision to basically make that part of the game not too complex, because it would have been pretty much annoying and a whole lot of optimization and min-maxing going on if you had to worry about the mass of your propulsion as well. So anyway, I made it so that these have no mass, so you don't have to worry about it if you attach extras. In fact, you can throw on extra propulsion that aren't even active, and it wouldn't increase your mass, but it will lower your support if you have inactive. All right. So anyway, and the other mode other than info is matter. This is how much matter our assault rifle uses per shot. Again, you can open it to see the actual value, but this is the relative value. As you can see, that's a tiny little, just 1 bar. It could go, some weapons use a ton of bars, and that's a lot of matter. But assault rifles don't take much matter. But again, matter is kind of like your ammunition for kinetic weapons and on launchers and a few other things. So each time we fire, we're actually using up matter, but we've been picking up spare matter that these other enemies are dropping, so we're fine on matter for now. If you use a lot of kinetic weapons, though, you have to really pay attention to your matter, because you could run out, and then you can suddenly no longer shoot them. So thermal weapons don't use any matter. You can see their resource requirements here. Thermal weapons consume no matter. Energy, this does require more energy, though, and it ups your heat more, as we saw earlier. So we now know what all these modes do. I recommend gradually learning how to use each of them. This is not really how to own the early game, but I wanted to make sure that this video also covered like pretty much the entire interface. And we've done that now, except for the inventory stuff, but I'll talk about that one a little later. But we've covered pretty much everything. So, back to actually playing. Let's keep moving. Alright, so I'm just going to open these doors. Beam cannon. Ooh. Alright, so this is actually not great, but it's a early game thermal cannon. It does more damage, a fair bit more damage than our medium laser. But the problem is it generates even more heat. So we can pick it up. Why not? I'm just going to grab it. Alright, there's a medium battery that allows us to store energy. We don't need that. But I am going to drop our wheel and pick up the beam cannon. So we now have we now have 4 spare weapons. There are 4 spare weapons. Actually, we don't. Yeah, these are 2 fine weapons. I'm going to delete those. All right. So I'm just going to keep looking around. High capacity matter pod. Ah, new enemy. We haven't seen one of these yet. These are watchers. It's the scout. There's only one type of watcher in the whole game. Actually, it's scout. And oh no, wait, there's not. There's 3. What am I talking about? Okay, so these guys have sensor arrays and signal interpreters, and these are like the intel guys. They will spot you, and they can tell enemies at a much further range that you're here, even if you don't attack them. Notice it's yellow instead of green. So he's actually actively out here looking for hostile threats, and if he's spotted us already, but he hasn't alerted anyone, which means, okay, there he goes. Now he spotted us. So you flash that exclamation mark again. You can look up in the scan window in the top right and see that there's an exclamation mark there too. That means he's spotted us. This guy is tiny and hard to hit. It's technically small. There is another size class which is tiny, but either way, still hard to hit because they move so fast. His base hit right now is 34%, which means it'd be hard to actually take this guy down, but you can. And one of the advantages of doing that is if you want sensors and signal interpreters and visual processing units. These are very effective utilities. Oh, not technically the ones this guy has, except the signal interpreter. But the idea is you can get stuff from these bots that's useful. We'll get into the detail about this one, I think, later. But the idea is he spotted us, but he did not warn anyone nearby. If this scout had alerted someone, then we'd know there's enemies coming. So the fact that he did not alert someone actually kind of works to our advantage in that we know there are no enemies within his alert range, which is like this. You kind of learn their alert range later on as you learn enemy behaviors and see what happens on sensors and stuff. But there's no enemies. We know there's no enemies here. So we can safely go to the east and we won't see any enemies, at least for now. Again, patrols move around, so it's fluid. But for now, we know there aren't any near here. And that scavenger probably just picked up the engines that were dropped down below, and he's walking around now. He's probably going to head off to a recycling unit and dump the stuff in there. Little freaks. All right, so that watcher is just going to do his job. He's tried to alert anyone who's nearby, but there's no one nearby, so he's just going to keep doing his thing. There's an EM pulse gun, and a structural scanner. I'm not going to go into the details about these. I'm not going to talk about all the items. I'm just going to talk about, again, stuff that's good for the early game. Technically, a lot of items can be good. We don't need to worry about, but the stuff that we don't need to worry about, I don't need to cover every item. I'm going to pick up this, I'm going to drop another wheel and pick up this pulse gun. So we're going to have a ton of weapons. We're not going to run out of weapons. This is a gray machine. Gray machines don't actually do anything mechanically speaking, but this is a special one. Notice that it's making a noise. You can hear it. And if you right-click on machines, it tells you more about them. It tells you their name. You can actually see it in the scan window as well. But it tells you their name. But this is not just a regular gray machine. It is a nuclear reactor. And it can blow up. So if you get in a firefight around this thing, yeah, it can take out the whole room. And if it decides to explode. If stray fire hits it, it destabilizes it and blows it up. Or if you hit it with a powerful enough weapon, it just blows up immediately. So these things are kind of dangerous. You don't want to necessarily fight around them. In the early game, it can work to your advantage. If you are in really big trouble, you can retreat to one of these things and literally let enemies walk up to you and then blow it up intentionally. That works really well because they'll probably die and you're not going to die. I mean, unless you have almost no integrity left, but you're probably not going to die because you have so much coverage and so many parts that are blocking shots and damage and a lot of core. Notice our core is actually damaged now. We fighting several enemies there. We lost a little bit of our core. That's because we do not actually have a lot of good coverage right now. We just have these weapons which are kind of helping cover us and the legs, but overall they're not doing a great job because they don't have total coverage that's very high yet. I'm going to get into more later about core coverage once we do tactical HUD. I guess I should mention that. Well, actually, I'll mention it now and I'm going to keep it off. All right, so in the options menu, there's an option which is off by default when you start playing, but all the good players will have this on. And basically, if you've been playing for a little while, you should turn this on. It gives you a lot more info. Now, the reason I don't have it on by default is that it's going to add a bunch of numbers to the HUD, and I don't want to confuse new players and make it really scary. So there's now extra numbers out here and other changes. So let me go over those really quick just to give you an idea. It now shows that our core is 17% exposed. Technically, this one might be okay to add off of tactical HUD mode. But anyway, once you have tactical HUD, it gives you a lot more stuff. 17%. So there's a 17% chance that enemy fire will hit our core. So about 1 out of every 5 shots is going to hit our core when we're fighting enemies based on our current loadout. This value takes into account all the stuff we have attached. So if we put on armor, that would go down because it's more protected. Energy now has 2 values. This is the amount of energy we gain per turn. This is the amount of energy we gain when we are moving. So when you're moving, it might change depending on how much propulsion you have. Heat also has 2 values. That shows the amount when moving as well. So the other difference is, notice walking no longer has a percent next to it. It has 120. That means it takes us 120 time units to move. 1 turn is 100 units, so we're moving it a little slower than 1%, than one space per turn. And again, if we switch out of tactical HUD mode, which actually there's a hotkey for, you can see that's 120 equates to 83% speed. So we're moving a little less than one cell per turn. So anyway, that's tactical HUD mode. That's one of the things. It does a bunch of other stuff too that I'm not going to get into. That's described in the manual. But once you've been playing for a while, turn on the tactical HUD. But it's not on at first because there's just too many numbers. All right, so now we can get out of here. So I'm just going to keep moving along. Ooh, large storage unit. So again, to recap, the 2 main things you want in the early game are storage and a launcher. We just found the first of the 2 and we barely started the first floor. Large storage units, they are very heavy, mass 16. We picked that up. Look how much mass that is. We can just barely hold that. But if we pick that up, we're going to be overweight if we put it on. But it increases our inventory capacity by 6. And it only takes 1 slot. So obviously it's way better than the small ones. And a basic assault rifle. So I'm going to grab that because you generally want to in the early game, almost regardless of your build. Some people might not, but in general, they're good. So we're going to do that. Go grab that. We might meet some enemies. No. All right, so this watcher, again, this watcher sees us, but hasn't alerted anyone, so we know there's no one nearby. So again, keep an eye on watchers and what they're doing. If he did alert someone right now, like, we know then there's enemies coming. What I would do in that situation is just completely forget about picking up these parts for a second and immediately find a defensive position. We're in the open right now, and we do not have good weapons for being in the open, or a good build even. So I would move immediately west and hide behind this door to fight whatever's coming. Technically, they could use that rear entry to flank us, but we'd probably be fine. It's better than standing in the open. because we'd probably, by the time the first one gets here, we take him out while his friends are going around. And anyway, it'll work out. But the idea is keep an eye on watchers and reposition immediately if they spot an enemy, as you need to. If we don't need to reposition, we don't. Like if we had an awesome build and whatever walks around the corner, we're just going to one-shot it. Sure, okay, just wait. But or just keep picking up items, doing what we want. I'm gonna drop the small laser because it sucks. Okay, so we still have a lot of weapons there. Picked up an assault rifle, and let's grab this storage unit. We're going to have to drop something else from inventory, so I'm going to drop the beam cannon, mainly because I don't want to deal with heat. Again, I'm not going to talk about all the details of some decisions about that. I'm just going to go over the main strategies for the early game. Oh, trap. Don't step on alarm traps. Okay. If we stepped on an alarm trap, that would immediately call other robots to the area. And so we don't have to be here, though. If you step on an alarm trap, if you run immediately and get away from the area, you might not even face what's coming. Of course, you don't know what direction they're coming from, so you might still meet them on the way. But for example, if we stepped on this and enemies come from the east, if we headed south, we wouldn't see them. But if they were coming from the south and we headed south, we'd run face first into them and have to fight them. So the other thing about traps in Cogmind is if you see one, there's almost always more. This trap here means there's going to be more in this hallway. This whole hallway is trapped right here. So it's pretty much impossible to get through this hallway unless you get rid of the traps or unless you don't care and you just step on the traps. Sometimes that's actually a strategy you can use for different kinds of traps for different purposes. But or you can go around them. We can go through this door and go around. Or we can go east. I plan to go east, actually. But yeah, so if you see a trap, be wary because that area is trapped. The only exception will be a trap that's adjacent to a door. Might mean it's just one trap, which is trapping near the door. That's it. But in this case, it's right out here. We can tell there's going to be more traps. So I'm not going that way. In fact, I wasn't planning on going that way anyway. I just got to get rid of. Let's see here. We got the large storage unit. I'm not going to attach it right now because we don't need to. We've got enough storage to carry what we have. And it's just going to make us overweight. So I'm going to wait until we have more legs later. The other thing I don't have yet are spare legs. Now, the reason I said that they're good starter propulsion is because, again, they're not hard to find. We will just run across some before long. But the other reason is the standard combat enemy in Cogmind uses legs. Standard combat enemy, grunts. Grunts use legs, and we're going to meet some grunts before long, I'm sure. And we'll shoot them up. They're going to drop their legs, and we're going to pick them up. All right, so he just picked up that gun we dropped, but we don't care. So I'm going to move along, kind of going to hug walls. So you kind of want to stay near walls when you're exploring. Wow. All right, there's a whole bunch of storage units here, and they're mediums. So they're in between the two kinds that we have. They weigh a fair bit as well. You can use mediums. Oh, okay, this is an issue. We are in the open fighting swarmers. This is bad. You don't want to fight these guys in the open. Again, they can tear you to pieces. Now, we have a lot of spare parts. We could win this fight in the open, and we'd be okay. Now, what do you do in this situation? Well, there's several things you can do. You can retreat. This is a long way to retreat, though, to be taking fire the entire way. You can still do it, though, and we'd still come out ahead. Or you can fight them from here. With a launcher, this would be over in 1 or 2 turns. We don't have a launcher yet, so the other way we could deal with this is to move forward and find another way to create a bottleneck. But remember, as usual in roguelikes, moving forward into unknown territory is dangerous because there might be more enemies and you make the situation even worse. So generally, as with most roguelikes, most roguelike strategies don't really translate over to Cogmind, but this one does, and that is generally don't want to go into unknown territory unless you're really confident. Once you're already in a confrontation, that's what I mean. You want to retreat back to known areas. Now, one of the ways that can backfire on you in Cogmind specifically is that there are patrols wandering around. So if we did go back, what if there was a patrol headed up this way or headed up this way and going to come around the corner? Then we'd have to fight them too. So, but the chances are still lower that there's enemies behind us than it is that there are enemies in front of us. So we have to take care of these guys. Or, all right. But I say that, but what I'm going to tell you some other stuff now. We're going to talk about map sense for a second. Now, I know that there's an exit from the floor around this corner. I'm pretty sure there is. You know, you can't be 100% sure about this stuff all the time, but I'm pretty sure I've already found an exit. Now, the first floor is really tiny. Notice these borders on the floor, on the wall. The borders of the floor are here. This is actually an advanced option in Cogmind, and so you can turn that on if you want to go and see that in the advanced options. It's off by default when you start the game, but I've decided that as of beta 8, it's going to be on by default. That's going to be a change to the default options. And so you'll always be able to see the borders. So we saw that we started on the edge of the map here. Now, when you're exploring a floor in Cogmind, especially the early game, don't try and follow edges of the map. If you follow edges, you're going to be generally a little more safe. You might be a little more likely to run into a dead end, but it's safer than, for example, going through the middle. If you go through the middle of a map, patrols can be coming from all over the place, and you're going to end up in some pretty long battles and might succumb to attrition. Maybe not. I mean, it depends on how strong your build is and how good your tactics are, but you're going to have more trouble if you go through the middle of a map. Sometimes you have to, and sometimes you want to. But in general, again, we're talking about surviving the early game. This is how to own the early game. If you want to own the early game, you can just pass through maps pretty quickly, and the way to do that is to follow the edges, and you'll find an exit more quickly. And so that's what I did. See, we got to this intersection here. We had two options. I could have gone south or east. The reason I went east is this is the edge of the map. We're following the northern edge of the map. If I had gone south, we would instead be funneled towards kind of, we would either have to pass by our old spot and go down the west edge of the map, or we would be funneled towards the center of the map. And that would be dangerous. We'd end up fighting more battles. More battles generally means more trouble. Sometimes you have to fight, and sometimes you want to fight these extra battles. They're worth it. But in general, again, surviving the early game, forget about fighting extra battles because they're generally not worth it in the early game. If you can avoid fights, just do it. So we have a fight here, but because I'm pretty sure the exit is around the corner, we could just walk up and leave. So I'm going to actually move forward and do that, or see what's around the corner. Oh, look, it's the exit. Okay, we found the exit. So we can just leave. These guys can't chase us into the next floor. And so even if I didn't know that was the exit, or I actually would have gone forward anyway, because it would be likely that there would be a room over here, something we could use defensively. Now, that might mean there's more enemies, but I would have taken the risk rather than fight in the open and rather than retreat all the way back, because it can help. It can be worth it if you're close to some unexplored territory to move forward just a little bit and look for a door to use defensively, or a tunnel, but a narrow corridor like this one. But narrow corridors are a little more rare than obviously doors, which are all over the place. So we're just going to leave. I don't really need the medium storage units. I would have picked them up if there were no enemies, but rather than fight these guys, we can just leave. And we're going to go to the next floor. We don't know where the next floor leads. I know where it leads. Again, map sense. This is going to take us to the next materials depth, but technically it could take us somewhere else. So I'm going to go over one more part of the UI real quick, and that is the world map. So this is where we are right now. This is the world map. We are on sublevel 10. You can access this map by using backspace. And again, I mentioned earlier there were some buttons at the bottom of the inventory area here. One of them is the map button, if you want to click a button rather than press the key on your keyboard. It's either backspace or click the big button that says map at the bottom. And it opens the world map. We're currently on this floor. This is the only floor we've discovered. It's the materials. We learned that by actually connecting to a terminal. As soon as you connect to a terminal, you can learn what floor you're on, if you don't already know, generally from personal experience. But all right, so there's two ways you can go in Cogmind. One is up, and the other is to the sides. Now, if we go up, we're about to go up. We're going to go to the next materials floor, and when we do, we're going to evolve. The other way you can go is to the side, and if you go to the side, you don't evolve. Evolving is how you get more slots. It's also how you increase your core. It's the only way to regenerate. Well, yeah, we're going to leave it at that. It's regenerating, and it basically makes you better. You kind of level up, in a sense. In Cogmind, your parts are where all your abilities come from, but your core self levels up only when you go. It gives you a few abilities, and it levels up when you go only when you go up. So if we went to the side, we would not level up. If we went up, we would. Now the thing about going to the side, those are going into branches, is what it's called. I'll explore that later and talk to you about it. But going into a branch, branches generally, you're going to want to avoid them as a new player for the most part. I'll talk about the main early game branch later, but branches though give you lots of good long-term benefits in general. They're harder than the main area, but you'll also come out of them more powerful if they don't kill you. So you'll gradually want to start going into branches. That's also where you learn the story and interact with NPCs, and all that stuff's outside in the branches. So you'll want to do that eventually, but when you're first starting, you want to own the early game. Don't bother with all that. Just go through the main complex. All right. So, but if you want rewards, go into the branches. But I wouldn't suggest doing that right away, and not until I'll tell you about the requirements later. But let's go to the next floor. All right. This is the evolution screen. When we go to the next floor, when you go up, like I said, you get to evolve. Evolution parameters. We can apply 2 slots. We can choose which slots we want to get. We have 2 slots to apply. We can, for example, get 2 more weapon slots. That would give us 4 weapons at the same time. We could get more propulsion slots and carry a lot more. You can split it up and go for a propulsion and a utility slot. This would give you more support if we got a 3rd leg. We don't even have a leg in our inventory, if you recall. So the slot would be empty for a little while until we find one, or take one from, a robot that doesn't need it anymore because he's dead. There's utility slots, which are for storage and all kinds of random stuff. They do just so many different things. So there's a lot of ways you can evolve. Don't evolve power in the early game. That's the main. There's only really one rule to evolving in the early game. That's don't evolve power. Now, if you want to own the early game, there are a couple different ways to do it. My personal preferred way, I'm going to tell it to you first, even though it's not the way I would actually suggest doing it for a brand new beginner, is to go with 4 weapons immediately. Because with firing 4 weaker weapons at once, even just regular assault rifles, you can destroy anything very, very quickly. But you'll have a little more problem balancing, your other factors like weight, and you'll have low utility slots, not as much of that. So anyway, I don't suggest doing that as a brand new beginner, but it's a lot of fun, and it's actually fairly easy if you can make sure you have enough spare weapons. This is what I would. We'll maybe play that later. And I'm going to do a quick run later through materials, several of them. We'll try a 4-weapon run, and I'll show you what that's like. As a beginner, no per power. I would say at least 1 more propulsion. Propulsion is basically the safest evolution. In fact, you could even go 2 propulsion and you'd be pretty safe, but I wouldn't. This one, as a beginner, definitely at least 1 propulsion slot, because then you'll have more integrity on your propulsion. You're less likely to not be able to move anymore. Or move super slowly is what I really mean. If you move super slowly, you're going to get messed up. So you want to have at least 1 more propulsion. And I'd say go for a propulsion and a utility for the versatility. Utilities are good for versatility. You might not know exactly what to attach, but hey, if you throw in some extra storage and armor, and you'll be good to go. I'm going to say this is a good way to do pretty well in the early game as a beginner, where you're not actually sure exactly all the things you want to attach. This is a kind of a safe way. So we're just going to leave it with 2 weapons. Even though going for a 3rd is another good option, because 3 weapons is better than 2 weapons, right? Well, the thing about firing more weapons, I'm going to confirm that. The thing about firing more weapons at once is the more weapons you fire, the more efficient you are at firing them, time-wise. Firing 2 weapons is the least... firing 1 weapon is the least efficient, but 2 weapons is still not very efficient. It takes... if you go into firing mode, it takes... 71% speed. So, I mean, it takes longer than... Oh, that's to relative speed. Anyway, if you turn on the tactical HUD, that also shows your firing time using time units. It's 280. So it takes almost 3 turns to fire our 2 weapons here. But the more weapons you add, if we added another weapon, it only takes like a little over 3 turns. Or actually, it only takes 3 turns. Anyway, it takes only a little bit more each time, until you eventually get to a lot of weapons, and it's pretty much free to fire extra weapons. You're firing this huge volley at once. So more weapons does have that advantage. 2 weapons, we're going to stick with 2. So now, what are we going to attach in our propulsion slots? I'm going to put on treads. We have a new propulsion slot, but we don't have enough legs to fill it. But remember, all right, so one of the rules I said earlier was always keep your inventory full. Another related rule, now that we have extra slots, it's more important to talk about this, is always keep your slots full. Even if you're in combat and the enemy shoots something off of you, don't be in a rush to shoot back. Remember, you're stronger than they are. Go ahead and attach another part right away immediately. You need to stay at your maximum effectiveness and keep your core covered. So keep these slots full. Now we can attach treads. We can't actually use them because we're using legs. This is something the tutorial teaches you, so everyone does pretty much learn this right away. But if you turn on the treads, look, we're moving more slowly. Let's turn it off. We're moving even more slowly than with legs. So let's stick with legs. We're moving faster. We have enough support. But what do the treads do? They help block shots. If we look at our coverage, it has just as much coverage as the legs, even though they're not slowing us down and they're not active, so they're not helping us, but they do help us in terms of protecting our other parts. They have coverage and they have integrity. Their integrity is fairly high. So that's something you want to do if you have extra propulsion. In Cogmind, this is called propulsion armor. So yeah, just kind of a special tactic specific to Cogmind. All right, so we don't have any other utilities to attach except this large storage unit, but it's going to slow us down, so I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to leave that one empty. This is not something I recommend you'd normally do, but this is kind of an exception to that rule. We'll get some more utilities soon. We haven't even seen any enemies yet anyway. So, okay, so to look at the borders of the map here, we are in the top right corner of the map. So if we're going to explore this map effectively and get out of it as soon as possible, you want to go west or you want to go south. You generally start on the edges of the map. So west, you generally want to go along in a cardinal direction. If we headed southwest and started exploring out here, we're going to be on this floor for a while. So let's check what's behind these doors. All right, so there's no enemies nearby, of course. These are just machines I'm going to ignore. And so see, look, there's a corridor to the north. That's going to be a dead end. Either that or it'll circle around to the west, but it might not. It might just be a dead end. So exploring that is actually kind of a waste of time. But if we look here, it looks like we can't go south. It's blocked. So we're going to have to explore west. So if we're going to have to explore west, I'd like to stay as close to the edge of the map as possible. So maybe we'll go through this door real quick. It might be a closed off room, but nope, it's not. There's a door on the other side. So we can keep going west here. So why go west here instead of going south through this corridor? Tactically speaking, going through rooms is safer than going through corridors, because if you go through big corridors, that's where patrols are more likely to be. And so if you get in a fight with a patrol, well, guess what? That's where more patrols are more likely to come through. So you want to go through rooms when you can. And right now we don't have a melee weapon, but once we get one, that is another early game tactic, or really the whole game tactic that's effective, is to carry a melee weapon and chop through walls to make your own passages through between rooms. But that's kind of a slightly more advanced tactic. For beginners, just try to go through rooms rather than going through corridors when you have that option. All right, so here's some more utilities. Check it out, a heatsink and a seismic analyzer. All right, I'm just going to grab a heatsink. What that can do is dissipate 10 heat per turn. So if we start overheating, we're not going to, but see, I could attach a cannon or something. And anyway, we had an empty slot, and this is going to block shots. It doesn't block a lot of shots, but it gives us a little bit of coverage. You see there's a little bit of coverage. I opened the coverage display here, and you can see a tiny bit. If you open the actual item, you can see it has 2% coverage. So there's a 1 out of 50 chance that the enemy fire will hit this heatsink instead of something else we have. So we're more covered now, sure. I'm just going to... We could pick up another heatsink, but I'm not too worried about it since... Okay, here we go. Watcher. The Watcher did just alert someone, so we know there are enemies to the south. We don't know what it is. Something's coming. So there's the option here is to keep moving to the west, south, whatever. We can meet it head on. We could retreat to this door, which is the safest option. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just retreat and wait for them, because they've alerted some enemy near here. That enemy now knows where we are. They're going to come over here and follow us into this area. So the way enemy memory kind of works is once they know where we are, they can basically follow us. They can kind of guess where we went for a while. They're smart enough. Kind of how the robot memory in this game works, is they can kind of guess where you went for a while until they become it. But if they haven't seen us for a long while, they'll forget. But for a while now, different enemies have different amounts of memory too. So Anyway, I'm just going to move back here. There we go. I'm going to wait here for whatever's coming. We don't know what it is, but whatever's coming knows we're here. And so it's going to show up before long. So just see, we use this opportunity to reposition immediately. And we're ready to fight them. We've got, well, we could attach better weapons, but actually all of our weapons are rating 1. You can tell by looking at Q mode here. When you change the mode of your parts list up here, these buttons, that also changes for the inventory items. And so we can see, for example, the 1 out front. All of our weapons are rating 1. That means none of the others are really too much better than what we have, except rating 1's kind of a little weird because it's got this light assault rifle, which is extra weak. So technically we could use an assault rifle instead. So we can pull this up here, replace our assault rifle. So we're going to do more down. Now we're going to do twice as much damage with that item slot to whatever shows up here in a second. So we are ready. I'm going to just wait here. Again, scrolling on the map here. I'm scrolling. You can watch the time go up. Whatever's coming is still headed our way. Now, it still isn't here. My guess is it's a sentry because it's so slow. Otherwise, it would be here by now. Or the watcher alerted them really far away, but they can only alert from so far away. We could step out into the doorway to open the door and see, but there he is. It's a sentry. Okay, this is our first sentry. These guys are tougher. They work alone though, so you only have to fight one at a time. But as you can see, he uses treads. He's got his armor. He's got treads. He's got a heat sink. He's got armor. So these guys are good for getting armor replacements and treads if you like them. And he's also got a heavy assault rifle, which I really like in the early game. They're actually one of my favorite early game weapons. I mean, they're not a prototype, which we haven't even seen any of yet. But as far as early game regular weapons go, I just kind of really like stacking heavy assault rifles. And they have a beam rifle. These guys have 2 weapons. They're the only early game enemy with 2 weapons. So they can fire 2 weapons just like we can. But they only have 220 core integrity. So they're not going to be too hard. So, all right, we're waiting for him to step in the door, and I'm going to shoot him. And this could take a little while, a few extra shots, but we've got fairly okay weaponry, so it only took 2 shots. And he dropped his matter. All right, he dropped his heavy assault rifle, which is nice. He dropped his beam rifle, and I'm going to shoot this guy. All right, we shot the recycler. He's running away, but he's running away towards us because he's going to go that way, apparently. Now, look next to the heavy assault rifle here. You can see a number in brackets there to the left of it, or this beam rifle to the right of it. It says 2. That's the rating of these weapons. They're rating 2. And so when you're first starting out Cogmind and you don't really know what all the parts do and you don't want to compare, like for example, this weapon does 5 more damage than that weapon, just look at the rating. If the rating is higher, use it. That's a really easy way. Like this beam rifle, sure, let's use it. It's better than our medium laser, right? It's got a rating 2. So let's just take off the medium laser and attach the beam rifle. We now have a beam rifle. We're becoming a sentry, basically. And this heavy assault rifle, like I said, that's good too. So we can take off the assault rifle we have, and our inventory is full. So I am going to, actually this might even auto-attach over our assault rifle. If we just click on it, it might replace our assault rifle and drop that into our inventory. Should. Oh, okay. There's certain rules to the replacement. It didn't pass those rules, so it doesn't always do exactly that, mainly because this was not a cut and dry decision. But anyway. So now we have a heavy assault rifle. And so that rating, when you look at the rating, again, up here is a 2. That is actually a quick way to compare all your parts. Like when you have, like right now we have aluminum legs, they're rating 1. Well, if we find some rating 2 legs, attach them. Don't even care about their stats. Just attach them. As a starting player, you don't have to worry about all the details. You can gradually learn the stats and just go for highest ratings. So people are sometimes really overwhelmed with the number of parts in Cogmind, but if you just look at the ratings, notice too that when we click on this here, the parts, it opens all, remember I showed you earlier the labels, you can look at all the labels, 1, 1, you can just look at all the labels here and see the ratings. These are all 1, these are just intro, these are, again, we're at the beginning of the game, so there's a lot of rating 1 items. But once you see better items start to pop up, attach them. And don't worry too much about the details. It's more important to learn exactly what they do. So we can go south here or west. Like I said, we want to explore west because we want to follow the edge of a map. We're already we're closer kind of to the top edge, so we're going to follow the top edge. All right. There's a machine. Again, we're not doing any hacking. It's quite likely, I think this might lead to a dead end, but that's narrow quarter anyway, so I'm going to go explore the north side here. Let's find out what's in this room. Oh, look, there's an exit. Okay. Where is that? Okay, that's going to be an interesting exit. Okay, this guy hasn't spotted us yet. Notice that. This is a sentry who has not spotted us. We could technically leave. If I went around south and just left, he would not. He wouldn't come after us unless he's actually spotted us. But now I intentionally let him spot us. I'm going to pull over here. I let him spot us, and I'm going to put us in a defensive position in case there's someone who comes in behind him. They won't be able to pass by him, and we're going to fight him right here. Technically, actually, this is a bad place to fight. We should open that because it probably leads into a room, and we could fight from inside the room. Because the room probably doesn't have more enemies in it, and more enemies that use these corridors could show up while we're fighting the sentry and hit us in the back. That's not good. But anyway, I'm pretty confident, so I'm just going to sit here and let it kill him anyway. All right, whoops, I waited an extra turn. That was my fault. Shouldn't have waited that long. There we go. He's dead, and he dropped his assault rifle. Thank you. I'm going to drop the beam rifle because it's almost destroyed, but mainly because I really like the assault rifles. There's also an auto gun inside this room. All right, there's an improved ion engine. That's actually better than our engine, so sure, let's just attach it. Probably could have done that automatically. All right, we can pick up an auto gun. It's not a bad gun. It's rating 2. It's better than our rating 1 light assault rifles. Grab that real quick. Step outside. And let's see. Nothing else going on out here. All right, so there's an exit here. Where does that lead? Okay, so my map sense tells me, well, I'm not 100% sure actually on this one. It could lead to the next floor up, but not necessarily. It might be the mines. It might be a branch map. Now, that would be bad, actually, in our current situation, mainly because we don't have a launcher. In the early game, if you want to really own materials, I'd stay away from the mines. Now, how do you stay away from the mines? Most mines exits pretty much are actually, this could just be storage. Anyway, all right, so most, it's hard to tell where this is. So, all right, so I guess I'll go over how to figure it out. So a lot of early game players, they're like, they're randomly going through exits. You can actually find out where exits leads. There's a lot of different ways to do that. One way is through map sense. Like I can tell, like when we came to this floor, I could tell exactly where the map led, where the exit would lead. Just based on my meta understanding of how the levels, as you play, you just learn this kind of stuff and how the levels are laid out. They're random, but there's still some clues you can see. This one is not quite as obvious, so we're not sure, but if we got a signal interpreter and we stand next to it, that'll tell us where this exit leads. We'll then know if it leads to the next floor, which is materials. The early game is materials. So, mining claw. Okay, that's nice. Normally now, if you see an exit in the early game, which has mining claws next to it, not like this, but it looks like a prefab. It's not. It has mining claws and has a special machine. We'll see one later probably. I'm sure we will. If it has that stuff around it, it's if it has mining claws or matter storage and it's got a special exit, that's going to lead you to the mines. And the mines are can be kind of dangerous. They can be good. They're fun. They have different stuff that happens in them. It's a more crazy place. So, but I don't recommend going there without a launcher. We still haven't found a launcher. So because I'm not sure where this leads, I don't want to go through it just yet. We could go get a signal interpreter. We have a targeting computer here. Ooh. Let's get a targeting computer and pull off this heatsink. Targeting computers is improved. Notice it's rating 2. It's even better. That's not bad. And we don't really need a heatsink yet because we're not going to overheat. So I'm just going to attach a targeting computer. Now, notice that 2 dots are right just to the left of this item here. This item cannot be removed without destroying it. We can remove it, but it's going to destroy this item. So it's a processor. The processors work like that, as do just a couple other items. But the idea is basically you got to be really sure when you're going to attach this, because if you can't take it off without destroying it. Now, other items you can swap them in and out as the situation might require, which you'll be doing some of as you play. But anyway, it's the early game. Don't worry about any of that. So, an armored wheel. Oh, I love those. All right. Yeah, right. In a normal run, I would grab that. I like armored wheels. I'm not going to bother right now, though. Well, you know what? Actually, whatever. I'm just going to leave it there. If you're a wheel, I like playing with wheels, though. And they can be good if you have armored wheels, especially they're good. But I'm just going to leave that there. I'm going to grab an extra engine. Oh, all right. Let's grab an extra engine. Okay, wow, that's 4 pests. We're now up to the next floor, and there's 4 pests. I hope that's not 2 squads together. Okay, so how do we fight this? We don't have a launcher yet. Again, if you have a launcher by this point, like a grenade launcher, you're likely to find one on the first floors. You'll almost always find one. If you explore enough, you will find one. They're going to be around. But if you had a grenade launcher here, you could just fire one and like take all these guys out. But in our current situation, what I want to do is pull back and fight defensively from this door here. Now, there are so many of them that we might not kill them quite fast enough that it could be that while we're fighting right here, the others are going to go around this way, come through the same way we got here and come and hit us from the rear. So, got to be on the lookout for that, but I'm not too worried about it. Let's just let them run up here to the door. All right, here they are. Hello. I wasted a couple turns just sitting here. And now we're going to just like take all these guys out. They're dying. You can see in the top left for sure that we killed. Plus you can hear the sound effect from actual destruction. Whoa, these engineers. Right, dude. Alright, they're almost all gone. Some stray fire there. Alright, they're all dead. So see how well that went. Because we were sitting in a doorway and they were funneled through. They didn't go around the other side, interestingly. But if we had tried to fight that in the open, we would have been torn up a bit. When you look here, we already did get torn up a little bit. Our heavy assault rifles each got damaged a little bit. We lost a little bit of core, not much, because we're getting a little bit recovered now. And we lost some of the leg and some of the tread, not much. We're still in great shape. I mean, yellow is fine, and that didn't go too poorly. They're all dead. But if you tried to fight that in the open, each time we shot one of them, all the others would be shooting us back, and that sucks. So try to avoid that. Okay, so we don't really have any loot that we need, though. We don't want any of that salvage. So I'm going to keep heading west. This seems like a bad corridor. Sometimes in Cogmind, you will reach areas where you'll kind of learn to identify them as you play more. You'll be finding places where there's a main corridor and you see a lot of green bots running through them. That means it's probably what's called a thoroughfare. I call it a thoroughfare. And that's where a lot of bots just happen to pass through, because that's the general layout of the level has made it such that to reach this section of the level, everyone has to go through here. Or to reach, you know, this major section of the level, everyone basically to pass between them, they have to come down this corridor. And so you want to avoid thoroughfares if you can. It's hard to do actually in the early game, which is why it can be kind of deadly. And it's not as hard in the mid-game and onward, where the levels are much bigger and more open spaces and stuff, and more pathways. In the early game, though, you're going to maybe end up fighting in some of these places. So you got to be on the lookout for it, or at least be prepared. We know now that this is a lot of guys, and it's dangerous to fight here. So you don't really want to fight here. We kind of want to pull back and fight into a more hidden area. The other thing is, if you see a thoroughfare, if you have a way to get through the walls, it's nice to chop through the walls and go basically, like I said earlier, go through rooms instead of the corridor. You want to go through rooms because patrols are generally going to be going through corridors, not rooms. They'll pop in and out of rooms sometimes, but in general, you're going to have to. They'll be doing the corridors, and so you want to avoid that. So they're coming. That is a bruiser, which is actually kind of nasty. That's a new type of enemy. Actually, we haven't even fought any mercenaries yet. So this guy is here to deliver us some legs. He's got 2 aluminum legs. Our leg is kind of damaged, and we don't even have a 3rd leg. And we're actually overweight now. We should look at that in a second. So he's our leg delivery guy. This guy's a bruiser and pretty dangerous. They got a hammer. He's going to hammer us. But anyway, whatever. It's better if you can fight bruisers from a range. But in the early game, it's not super important to worry about that, and later on it gets really important. You do not want to fight these guys head on because they will smash your stuff up pretty bad. But in the early game, they only do so much damage, and parts are pretty easy to replace. So what we can do is pull back. There goes another hauler. If we destroy this hauler again, we can get a bunch of loot. They drop a whole bunch of parts. Some of them can be really good too. So what some people like to do in the early game is destroy these specifically to get their good loot. That's kind of what they're there for. They're loot pinatas. But if you, the problem is you need to be confident that in your abilities, mainly because they can't call for help. So you got to be on your toes about that. It might make things more problematic, and you have to. So anyway, you want to make sure you're able to actually take them out, hopefully quickly too. So what I'm going to do is pull back again, because I don't want to go forward and fight these guys. I'm just going to pull back into this room, and they're going to walk over here, and I'm going to take both of them out, and we're going to get some legs from this, hopefully. I'm trying to think of maybe we should pull back to here. Pulling back to here has an advantage, and that is if we fight them here, recyclers could steal the legs if they're dropped out in the hallway while we're fighting. So technically, it might be smarter to pull back, but I don't want to waste that long. All right, there's another. All right, grunts don't act alone. There's probably 2 grunts, is my guess, but these guys are working together here. All right, they're blocked by the walker workers, so they're going to actually try and go around. They're all leaving. All right, those 2 grunts and the bruiser are headed off around now because they couldn't get by this worker who's doing his little job here. The worker just decided to block them, not intentionally. So now what we can do if we want, we don't even have to fight them. They're going around this way, the way our path shows. We're going around. For anyone who doesn't know, in case you want to see a path much more clearly, it shows faintly always when you're cursoring around, but if you hold Control and Alt, it actually highlights the path even brighter so you can see it. I'm using that now just to show people. So they're headed around this way, going to come from the rear that way. So we can head, we could do one of two things. We can head west, just run away from them if we want to, and they might not forget about us later because they're going to travel all this way and try and catch up, and they're going to think, well, he's not here anymore, and then they lose us. So, or we can push up and fight them in this bottleneck here anyway and just take them out. So the disadvantage of going west is that we might hit more enemies, and then those guys catch up anyway. The other disadvantage is we won't get their legs. 2 of them have legs, and they're almost certainly going to drop them. So I kind of want legs. Let's take their legs. All right, I'm going to wait right here. Actually, no, I'm going to wait right here. Because they're going to come the back way. Unless, oh, nope, all right. They came back the other way again because it was opened up. So anyway, we could have gotten away still, probably. But now this guy's at range. Can we fight him? Yes. I'm going to shoot this guy right now, even though we're in the open because his friends aren't here yet. His friends are probably still, maybe they might have been trying to go around. But this guy got blocked by somebody else. All right, so I'm going to just shoot this guy. We want to take him out before he gets to us because this guy's got a hammer. He can't hit us from there. Almost got him. Got him. Okay. So I could have stepped backwards and then shot him, but I decided to take the shot first, even though these guys would hit back, just because, again, we can take a couple shots from some mercenaries. Who cares about that? That guy was carrying armor, so we could technically even attach some armor right now if we want. Or we can just pull back and fight these guys regularly. I'm going to pull back. And I'm also, while we're waiting for them to get here, I'm going to shoot one gun at this guy. I'm not shooting 2, because if we fire both weapons, it takes longer. So shooing scavengers is nice to just fire 1 shot, and then he'll run away. All right, so now we can shoot these guys. They're not going to last long. We got 2 heavy assault rifles, and here comes another recycler. I'm going to make him go away. All right, he dropped a leg, so I can pull off the treads. We now have 3 legs. We're no longer overweight. But to get back to that, look at this. If I turn off a leg, it's not supporting anything anymore. We have 21 mass out of 20. We're slightly over our limit. That's why this O times 1 appears. We're overweight by 1. Anyway, you can look at the details again in the stats on how penalties and overweight works. But just we're a little overweight, which makes us slow. But if we turn on this leg, we're no longer overweight. We're back up to 83% speed again. This was 66% speed. It's kind of slow. So you don't really want to be overweight if you can avoid it. But some builds don't mind going overweight. And if you also, again, earlier I was talking about wheels. If you use wheels, but I'm being a little not focused on the early game, I think. I'm getting into a lot of more strategy than probably is necessary for the early game. You need a lot less than this. But anyway, I've got over an hour left on the stream, so might as well fill it with useful info. And it is still, these are all basic tactics which will help you throughout the game. So there's some armor here. We could attach that, but to do that, I would have to remove a storage unit. Let's see what happens if I put on a large storage unit in place of a small one. We're a little overweight, but we can carry a lot more. Let's see. We can put on, if I put on the armor, our armor will still be overweight. I mainly wanted to pick up the armor, which is why I did that. But avoiding being overweight in the early game is usually a better idea, especially if you're not on like wheels. Yeah. So let's see. You can't see the bottom of my inventory. There's not much else down there. But let's see. I'm gonna drop medium laser, put back on the small storage so that we're not overweight. We're going to keep the large storage, and then we also have the armor in our inventory. I'm not going to attach that just yet. It's probably going to be replacing it before long anyway. So again, keep all your part slots full, always. Don't leave any of those things empty. And your inventory as well. Our inventory right now is 8 out of 8. We're full. We've got extra weapons. We've got an extra engine. We've got 1 extra propulsion. What we really want for extra propulsion is extra legs. Right now I just don't have enough extra legs, which is why we're carrying around extra treads. That's like an emergency. If for some reason we get in big trouble and our legs all get blown off, we need something to move. So, all right, and there's a hammer. I prefer katana. Scout. All right, let's see if he alerts anyone. Okay, he didn't alert anyone, which means there's no enemies to the west. We can safely proceed. All right, gonna move up and see what's inside this room. Oh shoot! Well, there's no enemies to the west, but there's an enemy to the east, and he spotted us. Okay, so there's a grunt coming. Again, this seems like a bad corridor to be hanging out in. So fighting him from here seems kind of bad because there's a corridor. They could come through that door, this door. This is a really bad spot to be in. So I'm gonna actually keep moving him. He's gonna shoot us, whatever, a little plinky laser. Their weapons suck. And I'm gonna head over here into see what this room is. I'm gonna talk about that in a second. Let's take him out first. He's gonna come around the corner and walk into our doorway here and die. He's dead. Okay. Aluminum leg. Oh, he dropped both of his legs, and they're in good shape. So I'm going to drop those treads. Automatically pick up some stuff here. We don't need any of his other junk, though. All right, so... All right, I just clicked on that. It automatically replaced our damaged leg. And we now also have a spare leg in our inventory. Aluminum leg. So now we're in better shape there. Now, earlier I mentioned the 2 main things you want to have before you leave the early game are a launcher and storage. Now, in the early game, pretty much every early game floor has what's called a storage cache. Somewhere in the floor, you'll find one of these. It looks just like this. And it's got a whole selection of, do you want small storage, medium storage, or large storage? We can now get as many large storage. We have 2 large storage here. We have 1 in our inventory. We could pick up even more. So I'm just going to start. Whoops, that was my bad. Shouldn't have done that. All right, so now we've got extra large storage. We have 1 large storage attached. We also have 2 in inventory. It's kind of overkill. We still have a small one attached. We could even attach another large one right now. In fact, I'm just going to do that. Look at that. We're still only overweight by 1. So that didn't slow us down anymore. Once you're overweight, you can keep going overweight by a little bit until you hit the next threshold. So it didn't matter that I attached. We have 2 large storage units. We can carry 16 parts. Now, if you have this many spare parts in the early game, it's pretty much impossible for you to get annihilated. So I highly recommend using a lot of storage if you're having trouble with the early game. It's just slap on large storages and fill them with parts. Again, weapons and propulsion. If you have a bunch of backup propulsion and weapons, pretty much nothing can stop you. Unless, the main thing that will stop you is if you fight in these corridors for long periods of time, you get the attrition that drags down your core. And that's what will kill you. And core is lower in the early game. We only have 400 points of integrity here total. So later in the game, you don't have to worry quite as much about core as long as you stay covered because you'll have so many parts. You'll have armor and shields and all kinds of stuff. But in the early game, you do have to worry about that a little bit. Staying in floors too long can be dangerous. So there's a door to the north, but it probably doesn't lead anywhere. I think it just leads to a room, probably not a corridor. So I'm just going to have to head back south again. I'm trying to explore as little as possible, mainly because in the early game, again, you don't really need to explore. You need to get out of it. All right. That was a new thing. I should have probably talked about him. Oh, visual processing unit. Okay, so just now, there was a technician. He spotted us, and these guys, a technician is one of the operator class. They have a terminal, and if they spot you, they will run to that terminal and report you. When they report you, reinforcements will be dispatched to that terminal. So now there's a squad coming to reinforce this area. It's probably like 2 grunts. They're going to reinforce this area. Now, if we leave the area, that's fine. They won't even see us. We're just going to be gone. But we don't know where they're coming from yet. We don't have sensors. If we had sensors, we could see a lot more and make more decisions in advance. But right now, we don't know, so we can kind of just shoot them if they come anyway. So what do you do about operators? You can either leave the area quickly. You can destroy them. if you have. It's really hard to destroy an operator though in the early game. You don't have powerful enough weapons. They have fairly high integrity, so it's not too likely you're going to be able to kill them before they reach their terminal. Because they move pretty quickly too, so you're only going to get one shot usually before they reach their terminal. They won't necessarily be right next to it though. They could be in the next room or down the hall, but they move so fast that by the time you've fired one volley, they're going to be pretty far. Now, the other option is if you see their terminal, and you can guess which one it is, sometimes there's more than one. If you shoot the terminal, you have to do at least 18 damage to destroy a terminal. Our assault rifle can barely do that. You have to get at least this much in a single shot to be able to destroy it. That's what armor means. So that's another option for making it so the reinforcements can't arrive. Now remember, there's a drawback to that. That is, then you can't use the terminal either. But technically, if they get to it first, they're going to lock it down, and you can't access it anyway. So if they're going to beat you there, you might want to just shoot the terminal. That's one way. There's other ways you can manage operators. You'll learn about those slowly, but in the early game, this is pretty much all you need to know. So I'm just going to keep going west. Again, we're traveling west because we started on the east here, and following cardinal directions is more likely to get us out of the early game. We're close to the exit. I can feel it. Very close. It's ever so close. It's around that corner. The exit's right here. Map sense, right? So anyway, it's because we followed the edge. So look at this. We've only done this much exploring, and we're about to leave the floor. If you had gone south and explored the middle here, you would be having a lot of firefights and all kinds of trouble. And there's so many other places to go down there and explore, but you don't need to. You can just leave. This is a good weapon. I'm going to grab this pulse cannon. We now have a huge inventory too, so like I said, keep your inventory full. Fill it up. There it is, the exit. Again, following cardinal directions. There's a terrain scanner. Oh, we still don't have anything to get through walls. Great. Okay, there's 2 EMP traps here. Maybe I should have grabbed the hammer. 2 EMP traps, which means there's more. This is all EMP traps right here. This whole area. So we could, if you had a way to get through a wall, chop through the wall here. We could try and shoot that and blow away the walls. You could also destroy them. If we had a grenade, we could fire a grenade and it would just rip up the floors here and destroy all the traps. There's other ways to take out traps. There's a whole bunch of methods. Right now, I pretty much have none of them. But the thing is, early game traps aren't really an issue. Really, most of the traps in the game aren't too big of an issue. It depends on their situation. But in our current situation, I mean, this isn't an alarm trap. It's not going to call for help or anything. Let's just step on them. Okay, sure. Okay, we're getting corrupted. All right. We now have 1% corruption. Those traps set off each other. We now have 1% corruption. That's not going to mean anything. You just walk through it. So anyway, traps, you can generally just walk through them if you're not too worried about the results. And we are done with this floor. I'm going to leave this floor now. But see how easy this has been so far. This is pretty much a typical early game experience if you're traveling along edges of the map. That's one of the keys here. The other key has been retreating behind doors to fight squads. We didn't have any launchers, so we didn't have other options that way. But mainly the way that you travel through the floors is going to help a lot. All right, let's go into the next floor. This is the end of the early game, the next floor. The early game, again, is the first 3 floors. So what do you do for your second evolution? Oh, now we get all kinds of more options. We can go for a 3rd weapon. We can go for anything but power. Again, just don't do power. Propulsion, you'll be really, really safe if you do another propulsion. If you have 4 propulsion by now, that's good. You might even go for 5. I mean, that's a pretty safe way to play. The more propulsion you have, the safer it'll be. But I would suggest, if you're more interested in being a little more versatile again and playing a little slower too, I guess, is you can check out all the utilities and get some extra good utilities or another weapon. It's hard to say at this point. There's a lot of ways that this can go. I personally would go for more firepower, but that's because I like to shoot things. This is the super safe way to go because you won't lose your propulsion and you'll be able to support everything you want. We want at least 4 because we're going to be overweight otherwise if we're going on legs. In fact, even with 4, we might be overweight. But if you're on legs, you can go overweight if you'd like to have a ton of storage. It's worth it. Now, if you don't have a ton of storage, you probably won't be overweight, but you probably shouldn't go overweight either. Let's see. So, utility. I'm going to stick with this because, again, we're trying to show like how to own the early game. This is So you want more propulsion, and this is probably a little more, a little easier for newer players to balance. It's just 2 weapons, and you use your utility to store a lot of extra weapons. So your firepower isn't going to be as good, but you can take out guys fast enough. But I would also recommend trying this out, 3 weapons, because 3 weapons is a lot more effective than 2 weapons. But with an extra utility slot, you can put on armor, which protects your weapons, the 2 weapons you're using, right? So I'm just going to go with this. We'll do some more weapon builds in a second. We're going to start doing some faster runs as soon as I get through this one. All right. Aluminum leg. All right, let's drop on here. Aluminum leg. We now have 4 aluminum legs. We're still overweight. Again, that's because we have these storage, but it's still worth it because it's got extra coverage from the leg and extra support. So, all right, we have an extra utility slot. Can we put anything in it? Yes, we can now put on our armor. All right, so we have armor and targeting and a bunch of legs, and we're in good shape. Excellent shape. So where are we when you first drop into the level? Again, I'm going to turn on these borders by default, but they won't be on now if you're still already playing Cogmind. Most of you listening probably are. You can turn that on in the advanced options. And if we look around the map a little at the beginning, we're in the center west side of the map. So again, we're going to want to follow edges. Don't go east. So we can go either north or south. I'm going to first check out this room. And now we're going to start getting much better items, especially finally out of the early game. Or out of the early game. Now we're in just the end of the early game. This is the floor where items start getting fairly decent. Look at this, rating 4 carbon fiber legs, 4 of them. Ooh, these are out of depth caches. These are good, and we'll get to that in a second. All right, let me put on a pulse rifle. I'm just going to start just kidding ourselves out with whoops. All right, I'm not used to using the mouse here. Let's see, disposable heatsink, targeting, another targeting computer. We really don't need another one. Power shielding, plasma cutter. We don't need any of those. Okay. Oh, there's a back way around this area. Anyway, so another thing that you'll find, we haven't seen, this is the first time we've seen it so far, but in the early game floors, each one of them, in addition to the storage cache, which I showed you just a second ago, where we got our large storage units, they also out-of-depth item caches, part caches basically. If you find these, you'll be very happy. This one is not amazing. It's okay though. I mean, they're all going to be fairly good. Some of them are amazing. This one, hey, it's got 4 awesome legs, which are way better than our current legs. Okay, so we're not going to be overweight once we pick that up. But first, we're going to kill this guy. All right, here's a sentry. They normally, again, they just sit in junctions and defend places, or they sit in corners of rooms, usually rooms that have good stuff in them, and guard. So we're going to kill this guy. Then we're going to take all these legs. But should we do it at range? We have some targeting. We only have 2 weapons, though. If I had 3 weapons, I would probably actually fight him from right here. Because if we had 3 weapons, we could... and targeting computer, we could be more effective than him. But one of the major factors in whether you hit a target is the range. And we're far enough away. Oh, okay, we were spotted by an operator too. That's okay. We're going to deal with all this. Not an issue. We're going to wait here. So an operator has just spotted us and went around the corner. I'm going to wait right here for that sentry. There he is. Then we're going to shoot the sentry. We have a pulse rifle now, so it's a little more effective than what we had earlier. It's going to do more damage than our heavy assault rifle. But we got to watch our heat, though. Look at our heat. It's up to 72 now. Once you get to this part of the game, the very end of the early game, you do have to start worrying about the heat generated by some of the weapons. Anything thermal, especially a thermal cannon. You can't really use thermal cannons without heat sinks. So that's something to keep an eye on. 72 is fine. We can go up higher than that. It'll start to flash and warn you when you get hot and dangerous. This guy's still alive, not anymore. Okay, grab his matter. And then we're going to head down and grab the legs like I wanted to do earlier. So we have so much space in our inventory that it's just going to put them all in our inventory. But I want to attach these legs. So, well, let's see. All right, we're no longer overweight, so I'm just going to pick up the rest of them. We now have a ton of legs in our inventory. And we're not overweight anymore, so we don't really have to attach the other ones yet. I'm not going to bother for now. We can just let the other ones get damaged and then replace them later when we want to. because we're not overweight, and these legs aren't like incredibly fast or anything. So which way do we want to go? It looks like there's, so we can go north again or south. That operator just called for help up here, which means heading south would be, we'd be much less likely to meet whatever's coming. So let's take the back way. I'm gonna go the back way. Hopefully it leads somewhere. All right, looks like we're going somewhere. There's a machine in there. It's a repair machine. Oh, another sentry. All right, we're just gonna find him from here because he's pretty close to us. If he was really far away, we'd have a range penalty, but he's far enough, or close enough here that we don't have to worry about penalties. Just gonna take him out real quick. You're gonna die soon. He lost his beam rifle, so it says minus beam rifle there. And he's now gone. And wow, we got another storage cache. What did he drop here? He dropped his heavy assault rifle. We're gonna take that. And oh, look at that. EM pulse cannons. All right, we found another one. Another storage cache. Xenon bombardment thrusters. If a flight player got here, they would probably be getting close to switching to flight. Grab these, throw them in their storage and whatnot. But I'm doing kind of the, you know, if you want to own the early game, you don't want to try flight. You want to avoid flight, avoid hovering, generally avoid wheels. Just stick to legs, and if you have to, if you're out of legs, then go with treads. He dropped both of his light treads, but we don't need to worry about that. We have so many legs now, as you know. These are good. You know, they're already rating 4. So let's respec a little bit here. I'm gonna drop. I have a light assault rifle in my inventory still. Technically, our inventory isn't even full, but we're going to pick up all these, so it's going to be full in a second. We'll pull off that. Let's just attach, grab all these, and actually, let's attach 2 of them for fun. These are good weapons. They're rating 4, and we're only 3 floors into the game. Actually, to cover that real quick, going back to the map, check it out. Here is where we started again. I looked at the world map at the very beginning. Press backspace here, or you know, again, click the map button at the bottom of the inventory. And you can see we're now up to the final floor of materials. The next floor after this is you're in the mid game, where it gets floors get bigger, and there's lots of branches and places to go and all kinds of crazy stuff. So we're just going straight up. We didn't do any branches. We're going to probably go through some branches when I do fast stuff. Now we have 2 EM pulse cannons. Notice our armor is red now. Now the reason it's red is because check out its coverage. I switched to coverage mode here. It's really high, like I was talking about earlier. Once you get armor, it's going to take most of the shots. So this protects your other parts. It also protects your core. Our core is barely damaged right now. We killed a couple of sentries so far. So yeah, that armor, though, is almost destroyed. It's going to be the next part to go. You can see I switched to vulnerability mode. It's still got the biggest bar. So we're going to lose our armor soon. So if we had some replacement armor, that would be nice. But we do not yet have replacement armor. We have a lot of weapons. Okay, so let's keep going south. My direction of choice, my cardinal direction of choice is south. That's a room, so I'm not going to check it out yet. We might be headed into a dead end, it looks like. Huh. Oops. All right, there's some armor, though. Insulated plating. All right. That will actually keep us warmer, so we're going to have to be worried about heat if we use that. But it is armor if we use it, but it generates more heat. Armor generally, it doesn't generate heat, but it keeps your heat in. So this heat would act, this insulated plating is actually not very useful on this floor because there are no enemies that use, it gives you a resistance, but there's no enemies that use that kind of damage type until the next floor. So it's not great, but I'm going to carry it anyway just so I have some armor. System shield, EM pulse cannon. All right, fine. We'll go to EM. Let's drop the pulse gun. Grab the pulse cannon. I think we're at a dead end. Oh, okay, we're at a dead end, but there's also a sentry who'd like to say hi. Hey, there's a cooling system. So that's like it's kind of like a heat sink, dissipates heat. That'd be a nice thing to grab. We now have to face this guy. All right. So one thing to mention about these EM weapons in the early game are incredibly effective. I mean, they're actually incredibly effective throughout the entire game. But one thing that's special about them in the early game is that they don't... Oh, 1 second real quick. I gotta do something. All right. So EM pulse cannons are EM weapons. are really effective because they don't do quite as much damage as the regular weapons of their rating, but they do electromagnetic damage, which corrupts the target. Corruption is really, really good because it makes that harder for them to hit you. And once they hit 100% corruption, they just die, regardless of whatever their integrity situation is. So it's actually, once you can stack EM weapons, it's super effective. Now, there's a little bit of a drawback in the early game, and that is that a lot of the early game weapons also have, if you look at their spectrum, there's a 30% chance that if this hits his engine, it actually causes a chain reaction that explodes his engine too, which can be good, but you got to be careful about it because if you're standing right next to him, then his engine explodes in your face. That's not great. Their engine actually will also damage them as well, and any other enemies nearby, so that can be cool. But if you're sitting in their face, that's not so great. So be wary of that. EM weapons are good, and there aren't any enemies that are resistant. Once you get into the mid-game, one enemy you'll start meeting is resistant against EM weapons, which means you can't just use EM weapons to win against everything. But what we're going to do right now is use these on this guy. And he's going to die immediately because these are pretty powerful weapons. I mean, we pulled these out of an out-of-depth storage cache. I mean, out-of-depth, though, part cache up here. All right, so he dropped his heavy assault rifle. And, all right. Oh. Let's see, there's ECM's cooling system. That's right. I'm going to grab a cooling system because we're going to get hot at some point here. Let me check what of our inventory should be dropped. Let us drop this aluminum leg because we have so many spare good legs. We have a lot of storage, so much crap. All right, we're in a dead end, I think, though, which means I wanted to come down here and look for an exit, but we're going to have to go back through the other area. Now, when you're stuck in a dead end in the early game or any parts of the game, you can actually try and dig through the walls and find other rooms that might be out here. Or if you have sensors, you can even see the other rooms and then know which directions to dig in. But we don't have super effective digging stuff right now. And so I'm just going to head back. Yeah, this is a dead end. Shock rifle, prototype flight unit. So flight bots would definitely be grabbing the thrusters and this prototype. This is actually the first prototype we've seen this whole run. Huh. So in the early game, you will come across prototypes, usually more frequently than I've seen them so far. But these are items that you don't know what they are. It's kind of dangerous to pick them up just because they can affect your other equipment if they're faulty. But honestly, just attach them and find out what they are if it's the kind of item you might want. Like a prototype weapon, I don't need a prototype flight unit, so I'm not even going to pick this up. But if it was a good weapon, if it was a weapon, it's probably good because prototypes are better than normal weapons, normal items at the current depth you're at. So you generally want to check them out. And in the early game, who cares about the side effects, really? Just attach them and see what they are. We could grab a shock rifle. It also does EM damage. You can see EM there to the right of our pulse cannons. Like I was talking about, electromagnetic damage. Anyway, let's finish up this floor so I can start doing some quick runs. Because this one run has been doing a lot of description. Let's see. All right, we explored to the south and there was nothing. Heading east is heading towards the middle of the map. So that's kind of dangerous. In fact, let's go north instead. If we headed east, we're headed literally to the middle of the map. So it's actually a bad idea. So I'm going to go north. Oh, trooper. All right. We have some targeting, and we only see one right now. There's more around the corner, for sure. But let's take him out. Let's try and do it with one shot from here. But we just moved. So a little note on the basics of accuracy. We just moved, which means our accuracy is a little lower than usual. He just moved, which means our accuracy will be a little harder for us to hit him. And we're pretty far away. So all these factors coming together means our base hit chance is only 56%. It's not very good. Actually, improved pulse cannons, though, they have a targeting of plus 10%. So there's a higher, we're getting a bonus from that. But that plus our targeting computer, overall, we have a pretty good chance to hit him. So I'm just going to fire anyway. And we missed anyway. But if we wait one turn, notice now we have a higher chance to hit him. 73% chance. And that's because we stood still now for one turn. We were firing. We also just fired at him. If you fire at the same target, I think you get a bonus there. And we're standing still. So as you stand still, your bonus increases. The next turn we stand still, our bonus actually increases even more. It can't go further than that. But if you stay... So what some people will do is if you see an enemy, they might not even fire. You just wait one turn, and you get an immediate bonus to hit. Because waiting takes less time than firing. So I'm going to fire once more, even though they can both hit us. I don't really care. We're not in big trouble. We have terrible aim right now. I'm just going to keep firing. This guy pisses me off. All right, he's getting corrupted now, though. He's going to get hit by 2 pulse cannons. Probably going to die in a second. Yeah, he's dead. And this guy... Oh, shoot. All right, good. I wanted to show you that anyway. We're overheating. Warning, warning. See that red flashing orange? We know over 300 heat. It's because I was firing 2 cannons. If you fire 2 energy cannons, you're going to overheat before long. So we have a cooling system, though, so I am actually going to drop that in place of our armor. And our heat's going to come down pretty quick. We now have a much faster dissipation rate. We're no longer in warning territory. We're in hot territory. Hot's not too bad. Warning is where you start worrying about side effects. And above that, bad stuff can happen. So right now we're okay. We can't actually shoot him because there's a guy in the way. So we could wait one turn to see if that guy's going to move out of the way or not. He's just going to sit there. He's going to come straight for us. He's going to step... Oh, shoot. All right, there's another trooper. That's a different squad that decides coming around the corner. So now things are getting kind of hairy here. But the thing is, we have pulse cannons. These guys are going to get... We can blow up their engine, so we don't really want to fight them at point blank. So what I'm going to do is step off to the side so they can intentionally see me here. And now I'm going to hope that we hit their engine. Probably not. Oh, but we got to hit this guy. He's not around the corner yet, so I can't fire at him. I'm going to hope that we hit their engine. It'd be really nice to shoot these guys and hit their engine, but it's not... You'd have to hit their engine and then also trigger the chain reaction. These aren't great for doing that. There's EM shotguns are awesome for that. EM shotguns are actually fairly often found in the early game, and they're quite effective. So we lost a leg. We're in the middle of combat, but it is vital that we stay maxed out. So I'm going to put on another leg immediately. Don't even do anything else. Just make sure your slots are full. Now we've got all these guys barreling towards us, and I don't really want them all to fight us. Plus, this guy's got a sword, and he's going to start chopping away at us. And I don't want him to chop away at us, so I'm going to run away. We're going to pull back and fight these guys from a little more manageable position. Now, we could shoot him, but if I don't kill him, he will... Let's see, what's his... I don't need to look at the details. In a situation like this, it's better to retreat to here, because we're in a fine situation right now. Or there's a back door to that. We could have retreated down to here as well. And just fight these guys and then come back up. Let me think. But remember, you don't want to fight him from point blank. So I'm going to try. Let me see. He's going to catch us. Barely. It's going to be iffy. All right, I'm going to fire once at this guy. He's got hurt. He's been hurt already, so he might die soon. Oh, we lost a targeting computer. Not too important. We took off our armor, which means the other stuff is more likely to be hit. But this guy is pretty corrupted and close to death. Let's see. We have insulated plating. I'm going to put that on because we have a cooling system to keep us from overheating anyway. So now we have more armor again. I'm just going to shoot him point blank. This is not super recommended, but it's not that bad because it's a pulse cannon. Yeah, there it went. All right, I got to show it to you anyway. We lost our engine, and the whole reason we lost our engine is because we triggered his engine. His engine blew up because we hit it with a pulse cannon. Chain reaction. It took out his friend as well. Oh, no, actually, we hit him with the second shot. The first shot took out that guy, and then the second shot terminally corrupted the guy in the back. So 2 of them are dead, and it blew out all the walls. So, anyway, we now have no power, and look at our energy. It's net negative. Our energy will now be drained. If we start firing, what do we get? Our weapon here, if you look in... Oh, that's right. I haven't even shown that part yet. Once you're in firing mode, look at this window. The normal evasion window switches to volley. It shows the range that you're pointing at. See the R. R equals the number of cells, the range. And then when you're pointing at an enemy, look below that. It shows... At the bottom line there, look at that. It shows how fast your volley is. It shows the energy required, the matter, and the amount of heat it's going to generate. And any of those things will appear red. All the resource things will appear red if something is, if you don't have enough of it. So, yeah, let's see. I don't really care. I'm just going to fire this guy. We're really powerful. We took out his gun. He's gray. Yeah, or not gray, he's dark. If the enemy's color goes dark and his label goes gray, that means they've been disarmed. You can see there it says destroyed particle gun. And he's running away now because he doesn't have a weapon to shoot with. But he might go get a new weapon if he finds a mechanic. A mechanic will give him a gun. Not a great gun, but maybe some kind of gun. All right, we don't even have enough energy to fire because I was distracted by explaining everything and forgot to attach my engine. So we don't even have enough energy left to fire our weapon because we've down to half energy. We're still net negative. This is why you need a spare engine. I'm going to drop that in, and now we have net positive. We're getting an energy alert, right? because it costs energy to attach our engine, but from now on, we're going to go back positive again. So while we're regaining energy, I'm just going to pull to the east here, wait a couple turns. That other grunt is trying to approach us, and I'm not going to step in there. Once you've destroyed terrain, it glows red. And just like you can highlight your path by holding Control-Alt, technically if you really want to see them brightly, you can hold Control-Alt. These things now glow really brightly, so you can see them very clearly. And don't step on the red stuff, it's dangerous. If you try and fight while you're in the red, things can collapse on you and it's bad. So you can pass through it real quick if you need to, but beware. We're still low on energy because that put us too low earlier. We could turn off one weapon. One thing I wanted to cover is we don't have a lot of weapons right now, but once you have a build with a lot of weapons, having too many weapons active at once isn't always a good idea. You might not always want to fire all your weapons. So you can just turn off the ones you don't want to fire. Right now we only have 2 weapons, so it's not a huge deal, but basically if I do this now, we could maybe kill him with our 1 cannon, because that's all we have enough energy to fire. And look at that, we killed him. See, rather than wait a turn, and maybe he'd get to fire at us again for all of our energy for both cannons, we turned off 1 cannon, and we're fine. All right, this engineer is now going to repair stuff. Dude, just let go. All right, let's pick up, he dropped his nuclear core, let's pick that up. We do need a spare. Dropped a leg, we've got spare inventory space, let's just pick it up. I mean, we've got spare inventory space. Just, even if you don't need a part, you might need it later. All right, we're almost done with this floor, and we finally found it. Our launcher. I'm going to grab a titanium leg. And then, all right, you always want to carry at least 1 launcher. Pretty much always, everybody. Once we got a launcher, rocket launcher. Yes. I'm just going to drop some stuff here. Let's see, let's drop our assault rifle. Let's drop our damaged armor. Now we're going to get 2 rocket launchers. Okay, launchers. This is our first launcher. Normally, by the time you leave the early game, you'll have a launcher. Hopefully, you have it sooner rather than later, just so that you can deal with groups like that pretty quickly. We've already had a couple situations where it would have come in handy. So just some quick notes about a launcher. Generally, what some people do is, what a lot of people do, actually a lot of newer players, will they keep their launcher attached while they're running around fighting. Launchers are incredibly valuable. I highly recommend against doing that. Only put your launcher on when you're going to use it, or if you don't care if you're going to lose it. And normally you don't want to lose your launcher, like I was just saying. So again, it's such a valuable item. So keep it in your inventory, always, until you want to use it. If you find a group of enemies, put on your launcher and fire it. But don't leave it on, because if you leave it on, it's going to get destroyed before too long. Because it's a valuable item, you're always going to want to keep it around. You're not going to be replacing it as often, because you don't find launchers as often as other items. So it's going to take more attrition damage over time if you just leave it on. So as a new player, yeah, I've seen a lot of new players do that. That's not something you want to do. Keep it in your inventory. And another thing is, probably want to keep have a spare, like everything you have spares for. If you can spare the inventory space, keep a spare launcher. So I have a spare launcher down here, and I have 1 here. I'm going to leave both in my inventory, because again, I don't have anything to fire at right now, so I don't need to keep it on. So we're going to use that before long here, I'm sure, even if we don't have to. All right, so one more thing. This run, I'm almost done here, because I wanted to do this faster, but all the details are coming out now. I'm going to just do fast runs after this. Now, but we're going to quit at the end of this floor. So, I mean, quit this run, and we're going to start a new run, and I'm going to do it fast. So one thing I wanted to mention, I didn't get to go through the bottom of the inventory. There's a couple buttons down there. You can sort your inventory with these buttons at the bottom, T, M, I. You can click on them, or press T on your keyboard. Either click the button or press T, and what it does is it sorts your inventory according to type. And it shows that at the bottom when you do it. It says type sorted, or it says type sorted. And then so if you can see our engines are at the top, followed by all our propulsion. Then you'll see utilities, followed by all our weapons. And now if you press type sort twice, now our inventory is 16 items. You can only see 10 items at once in your inventory. Technically 11, but you can only interact with 10. Well, a cute trick, if you have an inventory, most inventories will generally be around 20 items or less, unless you're kind of in the late game with a really heavy build and you've got like 30 items. But a quick trick to see all of your items in your inventory without actually scrolling through it or looking like that is press type sort and then press it again, and it'll tell you at the bottom it reverse type sorts. This allows you to see the first 10 items and the last 10 items in your inventory immediately. So you can see up to 20 items really quickly, and it's a really useful way to interact with many items without like scrolling. Plus, it's nice to have your items sorted. So that's how I can show you that I have the rocket launcher without scrolling all the way down. And then I press type sort again, we're back to the normal start. Okay, and that's pretty much garrison. In the early game, okay, and really in the whole game, stay away from these as a new player. Just stay away from them. There's only one, though, and in the early game, and it's on this floor. There's only one in the early game. You won't see any of these on there. This is where enemies come from, or one of the places. And if you fight near this, enemies can call for reinforcements. So if we got in a firefight here, I wouldn't even start combat. I would just retreat to pretty far away because I don't want this thing calling reinforcements. Alrighty. This looks like a dead end, so I'm not even going to go that way. We're going to leave this floor soon. The exit shouldn't be far from us. Oh, check it out. A mini grenade launcher. Those are good. And also some power shielding and an advanced sensor array. Oh my god. Okay, we can take this guy out. I don't want to step forward. I do want to step into the room. Again, you don't want to fight in corridors if you can help it, because that's where patrols roam. You want to fight inside rooms if you can. So I don't want to step forward, though, even though that would improve accuracy. We're going to use pulse cannons, and I don't want to be in his face firing a pulse cannon because we've seen what that can do. So I'm going to step away from him. And now I'm going to fire the pulse cannons, and he's going to die pretty quickly. Look at that, he even missed. He missed so badly because he's getting corrupted already, and now he's dead. Okay, so let's see. Mini grenade launchers are excellent early game weapons. Excellent, excellent. And they're very lightweight as well. So anyway, I'm going to grab that. Let's see. All right, sensors. Advanced sensors are amazing. They allow you to see where enemies are before they even come, so you can avoid them. Let's see. I'm going to show how this works real quick. I just put on the... Oh, great, we're jammed. So I put on these sensors. We are currently being jammed. That's a little bit... I don't really want to go into being jammed or whatnot, but technically that means there's a watcher there jamming our sensors. We'd have to take him out or get out of range before we can actually see other enemies. So we can't actually see anything except the watcher that's jamming us. So here's the guy that we disarmed earlier. I'm going to leave the sensors on for a moment while we move around. We only have a regular sensor, though. We don't have a signal interpreter. What that means is, see if a core he does. I want to shoot him then. All right, I'm going to shoot you now. Just get out of my way. There he goes. Alrighty. Oh, there's an enemy to the south. He has not spotted us, which means if we want, we could retreat or something. But you know what? Let's just attack. In fact, let's just use rockets on the guy. There's going to be more than one of them. I'm going to put on the rocket launcher now because we are going to use it. And then we're going to, technically, I should also put on the armor rather than my sensor array. When you keep swapping back and forth parts and using kinetic weapons, though, or explosives, be wary of your matter. Because explosives use a lot of matter, and they also don't leave much debris behind. They don't leave much salvage, I mean. So you got to be wary of matter, and you can actually find ways to store matter in your inventory and carry a bunch of extra. All right, so there's more than one guy. I'm just going to take all these guys out. This is, once you have a launcher, groups become easy. But these guys are going to call reinforcements when we do this. But I've already pretty much shown you how to own the early game, so you know what? Let's just like destroy these guys. Fire a rocket, yeah. One more rocket here. Oh, we missed. Okay, we're bad aim. It's okay, they're all going down. Oh, this rocket sucks. Grenades are better. Let's see. Yeah, construction progress impeded. Sure. Okay. There's only one guy left. Once there's one left, it's not really worth using a launcher on him. Oh, but we don't have any. We don't have any targeting. We're firing at range, so that means it's a little harder to hit guys. So there's a nuclear core over here. Our matter is now down to 231. I'm going to keep an eye on that. I'm not going to bother grabbing the nuclear core. Alright, so our matter is getting filled up. This guy's picking up stuff. If we want even more matter when you're running low on matter, again, remember, take out scavengers. We're now headed back into the middle of the map where I didn't want to be, and there's reinforcements coming. Ah, our sensors are working now. See all these question marks? These are all bots. They could be enemies, they could be green bots. We don't know because we don't have a signal interpreter. But if you watch how they behave, you can actually tell the difference between combat bots and non-combat bots. And you can learn this over time. I'm not going to go into the details of it, but some basics are like, for example, if they move in a little tight group, it's a squad. And if it's one question mark sitting next to a wall or in the middle of a junction, it's a sentry. Some basic stuff like that you can figure out without a signal interpreter. But a signal interpreter is another kind of item you can steal from watchers or just find, and that'll help you. It'll help you navigate. So I'm going to head north because remember I wanted to try and follow the edges of the map. Right now we're in the middle of the map. So, all right, there's a watcher to the north and he has not alerted anyone, which means there's no enemies to the north. We're about to leave the floor because the exit is right there. And here's another storage cache. So if you need more storage, can grab more on the next floor, right? So here's the exit. I knew that was there. That's why I was headed up there. But again, oh, advanced visual processing is kind of nice. All right, that's it. Okay, you now know how, you know all the strategies that are needed to crush the early game. This floor, this map, this will lead you up to the next floor. I just will pass through it real quick. Your next evolution, you know, could be anything. I would personally want to go with more weapons. I like this kind of balance build. This is fun. 4-4-4 for the factory. Only I normally would have done it by going weapons first because that makes you really powerful in the early game, unstoppable, and then add the other ones later. But 4-4-4 is an okay, actually, factory start. Really, I mean, well-rounded. And confirm that. So this is now the factory. This is where the game starts to really open up. There's big branches. The maps are 4 times as large as the other ones. We're in the bottom right corner of this map, which is like huge. And I'm not going to go into the details, but here we can attach more weapons and all kinds of stuff. So with that, I am going to switch gears, finally. This took longer. This middle section took longer than I wanted, but all right, I'm going to commit suicide here. Let's self-destruct. And you can do that actually by pressing escape. I was going to use the keyboard, but you can go here, hibernate, abort, and shut down. Let's self-destruct, which will put us back at the beginning of the game again. Confirm, requires confirmation. Oops. There we go. Restart. Okay. Total score, we got 2,400 points. Yay. All right, now I'm going to press this button here, or spacebar, to restart. All righty. All right, let me see. I made a couple of notes about anything I wanted to cover. Let me see. I think I've covered probably most everything. All right, yeah, the only thing I hadn't talked about at all so far is the propulsion spectrum. So for owning the early game, like I said, switch with legs. You can also go treads. I'll talk real quick about propulsion. So why don't you want to use flight and hover is that one, they're much harder to balance. You have to balance your energy, and it's harder to keep a stable build with that. I mean, it requires a little more skill to get that set up. So it's really hard to do for a new player. New players should probably stick with what I just did there with legs and fighting. Flight and hover are really effective strategies, but not for the early game. I mean, even flight players won't start with flight. You'll generally start with something else and then build into flight once you hit the factory, where I just ended there. So through the early game, which you can run through real quick. Wheels are really good if you want to go overweight, and they're also kind of a middle propulsion like legs. They don't go super fast, but not super slow. Treads are slow, but they will last a while. And that's pretty much it for that. So now I'm going to switch to the third one, where I'm just going to do some quick runs through materials. And I'm also going to look at the chat window now. Sorry, I've been normally during my streams, I love to talk with everyone, and we chat through the whole thing. But I have not been doing that because I would never have finished this in time if had I been watching the chat window. That would have been really distracting. So, all right. Hello, Pinback and Vsen. Hey, everybody. Nice to see you all. Yeah, we got an instant jamming demo there, Vsen. That was pretty funny. Jamming is a good mechanic, though. All right, so let's. So anyway, also I'll take questions too. If you had a question about anything I just did or about the early game at all in general, and I'm just going to do some quick runs through the early game to show how easy it is. And I guess I'm going to use legs as well. All right, there's the plot guy. Goodbye, plot guy. I'm just going to use legs as well, though. I'm not going to use the other types because, again, I wanted to use mainly the strategy that I just showed. Just using a lot of the same strategies. Get out of the way, dude. And again, you can get through this if you activate Quick Start. You don't have to wait through or actually do all the collecting. And you can just press spacebar to get through that. All right. Okay, we already found a grenade launcher. And, alright, we've already had reinforcements called. Yeah, whatever. Okay. Grab this grenade launcher. We have our storage. Alright, so this is what I was talking about earlier. There's a signal interpreter. So you can use that if you want to know where exits lead. We don't need it at the beginning, but... Alright, another EM pulse gun. That's nice. I'm not going to do any hacking. Honestly, hacking is good, but I don't even do much hacking when I play. I mean, normally. I'm not much of a hacker. I just hack on Cogmind. We're in a dead end, so I'm following edges, but we hit a dead end. There's an enemy there, but you could pull back and not fight him, but I'm just going to like let him come over here. It looks like he's the reinforcements that were called. Oh, by the way, I've also switched to keyboard mode, so you won't see my cursor anymore. Because I'll play a little faster this way. I don't know, maybe I should play with the... Oh, here we go, mines, check it out. All right. So I was saying earlier, don't go into the mines if you're a new player, unless you have a launcher. We do have a launcher, but we don't have a... Let me see, what do we have? We don't have storage yet, but we have a launcher. So technically, this is what the mines exit normally looks like. And so if you see an exit with a mining laser and this kind of special stuff around it, going in there is dangerous. You might die. But I'm going to show it, just so we can show how to own the early game in case... Yes, check it out. Infestation. This is like the main... This is the reason new players will die in the mines. Is one of the main reasons is that you meet the infestation. These guys have anyway. It's a lore thing, a plot thing. Yeah. I didn't take the wheels this time, B said. I was really tempted with that armored wheel though in the last segment. Anyway, infestation is usually what kills new players, but this is why you don't come in here without a launcher. If you have a launcher, the infestation is kind of a pushover. Once you have a grenade launcher, you just nade them to death. They will all just die. This guy, we also got a friend here now. So different interesting things happen in the early game if we... where's he going? All right, I guess he's going off to... Oh, he's fighting to the south. There he is. Yeah, he went off to the south to fight the assembled. But anyway, oh, there's a whole battle going on down there. So anyway, if you have a launcher and your build is in good shape, go ahead and come into the mines. It's dangerous, but it can be fun. All right, we're now getting, looks like bad things are going on down here. Okay, ooh, nice. Oh, wait, he's dead. Isn't he? Oh, no, flexicarbon. He dropped his good stuff. All right. I guess I'll take it. Hello, Mr. Assembled Dude. There's some bad stuff going on to the south. Or maybe I should have stuck to the materials just so I didn't have to confuse everyone, but... There's the assembled. That's nice. You can just flame me all you want. I'm just not fighting you guys. There's an exit. All right, we're out of here. Goodbye. The thing about the mines is if you come in here, not only is there some cool stuff you can get, is you can also, part of the things about the mines is you can find an exit really quickly because the mines are actually pretty small. So I'm just going to leave that. Okay, so I'm going to stick to the build I was showing a second ago. Well, no, you know what? I'm going to go with 4 weapons to show that build because I don't know how many more runs I'll do, but I'm going to do several more. Let's do 4 weapon build. Let's see. Not the greatest situation to come into a 4 weapon build with, but that's okay. We'll deal with it. We'll manage. Let's see. It's a terrain scanner. These are pretty good. In fact, they're excellent. Let's see. Electro lasers. Okay. We don't need any of these other weapons if we have electro lasers. We now have we're going to overheat though, but everything's going to die. We have a lot of weapon slots. What you need is what you need with a lot of weapon slots is weaker weapons at the start. If you use a bunch of big weapons, you can't even support them, so why bother? I mean, you won't be able to fire them all. Oh. Alright, he's dead. See, that's what happens with 4 weapons. You open fire with 4 weapons on a sentry, and they just, like, die. I mean, anything. Nothing can stop you with this many weapons. It's a really good way to start. It's fun, too. I like it. I'm going to skip the terrain scan. Alright, where are we? Let me get out of here. Let's go. Alright, he's going to call for reinforcements, but we don't care because we're really powerful. We've got 4 weapons. Mining claw, pulse cannon. We do need to find the storage cache again. You want to find storage. I'm looking for another way around. Because if we go, remember, you want to follow the edges of the map. So I'm trying to head east. Unfortunately, we can't head east because there's probably an exit to the east. Actually, we found that there's an exit. No, it's just a door. All right, let's get out of here. Medium storage. Don't mind if I do. So even if you don't find the storage cache, it's pretty easy to find non-medium or not other kinds of storage. Wow. Cutting across the whole map here. All right, he alerted someone. Oh, excellent. Target practice for our grenades. Target practice is... We're going to need it because these guys dodge like anything. Anyway. So I'm very confident walking around like this because we have grenades. And we can just do that and kill everyone. They're all dead now. Except for that one, but we're going to take him out without a grenade because we've done enough damage for one day. But we now only have 172 matter, which means we need to replace it. Drop your matter. Alright, still a bunch of matter. There's a bunch of prototypes. There's more mines to the west. Wow. Maybe we'll just take the mines exit again. Let's just go back through the mine. Actually, wait a minute. Yeah, I'm just going to take the mines. Let this guy do some shooting. Goodbye. Alright, so anyway, we're in the mines. Again. Alright, this guy, there's little events in the mines. He dropped a mining laser. Just pick it up. Fine, I'll take your mining laser. If we'd kept searching around, we would have found an exit before long. Oh, alright, you're going to help fight it? Alright, this guy's going to help us fight. You can find friends in the mines, so that's one reason to come. Dude, like, kill them. They're shooting at me. I'm just letting him do the shooting. I guess I should, like, help. Alright, I'll help you, fine. Yeah, I know, I'm deadlier than you are, but... Anyway, alright, the exit's pretty easy to find in mines. We'll be there before long. But there are some dead ends. A little more than you'll find in the regular maps. So it could take a little longer. But we already fought the infestation in another depth, so I don't think this floor will be too dangerous. Oh, he dropped a rocket launcher. Thank you. Yeah, so that's another thing you can get in the mines is, like, loot. Good loot. Some friends come and give it to you. Sometimes enemies show up like these guys. Alright, we lost a leg, but that's okay. I'm going to put on... In fact, I'm going to put on treads right now because that will block shots. Alright, you guys aren't alive anymore. Oh, whoops. Swap back in the leg. Alright, we've explored at least half the mine so far, so the exit is coming. We might have just missed it. Oh, pff. See what we can do against these guys in the open. We can overheat, that's what we can do. Oops, bad news. That was a bad mistake on my part. We're overheating and we lost an engine. So, anyway. That was bad. We should have found the exit already. There's the exit. Can just leave. I could fight them and win easily, but there's just no reason. They're not going to give us anything. So if you can get out without doing that, I mean, go for it. Propulsion and utility. Okay. So we are already in the last floor of the early game. And it didn't take long to get here. And here's our storage cache. So we can now attach that. Put on some other stuff here. Well, guess I'll leave the medium storage on for now. Pick up some extra. Alright. This guy decided to... Okay, here's something I didn't talk about earlier real quick, is the haulers can sometimes be escorted by grunts. So if you see a grunt and a hauler together, this grunt is probably escorting them. You can tell if you watch for a little while, like if you have sensors. The grunts will be following around this hauler. And there's that tells you a couple things. One is that it means it's not a full squad. There's not a lot of grunts. There's just one or two grunts. So we're not fighting a full squad here. It's probably just this guy to escort. So that's something I hadn't mentioned before. Let's take them out. We're far away and we have bad aim. And I did not realize, I forgot, we have no power source. So we need power pretty badly, especially since we've got all of these thermal weapons. Let's put on some kinetic weapons. Two kinetic weapons and stop using power-based, energy-based weapons for a moment. Just take him out and take his power source. Come on, please drop your power source. All right, he didn't drop his power source. We'll get one from somewhere else, like this guy. You gonna drop your power source? Alrighty, he dropped not everything but his power source. He was carrying prototype energy cannons. Ooh, energy gun as well. Alright, sure. I guess we'll find out. Heavy EM shotgun. Alright, these are pretty common in the early game and they're very fun to use. And, oh, a prototype ballistic gun. Nice. Alright, anyway, so yeah, you can really get some great stuff from haulers in the early game. Or really in the whole game. That's why some players like to hunt them. And you can do that with this part here. If you attach this part, you can hunt them all down. There's another one to the south. I still need power. I don't really want to go south, but ooh, axe. All right, I'll always carry a melee weapon. Ow, that hurt. I just wanted his power source. So yeah, that's not something you normally want to do, but again, you're so powerful in the early game, it doesn't really matter. Ah, that's a good point. Yeah, B-San points out that the other thing, if you see an escorted hauler, it probably means the loot is better than if it was not escorted. So that's something to keep an eye out for. So axes are good. I'm not going to go into the nuances of melee, but axes are good as a spare weapon for chopping through walls at the very least. Oh, there's a sentry. He's just sitting out there in the open by himself. I'm going to leave and go the other way. Even if we meet someone, the thing is with 4 weapons, like I said earlier, you're pretty much unstoppable. So even if we meet a bunch more enemies, we're just going to like annihilate them all. Let's see, treads. Ooh, good, very good treads in here. Transmission jammer. What's that? Armor to the east. Not bad armor either. I still need a power source. Oh, we got 2 sentries coming. All right, I'm going to shoot them, but I have heavy EM shotguns, and those actually damage... Oh, shoot, there's a hunter. Those can set off cores, so... He died to corruption. You're going to die to corruption. They're all just dead. See, this is what 4 weapons does, especially once we're already at the end of the early game, so... Pick up all this armor. I mean, we're pretty much... We don't need all this stuff. There's way more stuff here than we need to win. I'm just going to pull back. When you see these guys and they're all kind of spread out, swarmers, if you pull back, they'll kind of funnel into a group, and then you hit the group with a grenade or something. All right, here we go. Let's hit you with a grenade launcher. There you go. Good swarmers. Oh, we're kind of far away to hit him with our shotguns, so I'll let him come closer. There he is. He's dead. All right. So there are miniguns and more armor and a missile launcher. Whoa, let's pick up the missile launcher and shoot that. Actually, I kind of should keep an eye on my propulsion, I guess. I wasn't paying attention to that. I should have grabbed the treads to the northwest. That would have been smart. I'm kind of playing a little carelessly. But these guys are going to eat a missile launcher now. Fortunately, we didn't get that other one. Completely unnecessary overkill. All right. We're now on treads. So, oh, we have a best backup wheel. We can go on wheels and be moving even faster. So technically, in this kind of situation, you want to get propulsion as soon as possible. And that means I'm going to go back and get these treads up here. Light treads. Now we have lots and lots of treads. Oh, I also forgot to pick up a power source. But yeah, I'm not keeping my slots full. Like I said, you're always supposed to do. But part of the reason for that, well, the reason for that is the early game is very lenient in general. So we now have a power source. And a spare power source. Like I said, you have a spare power source now, spare treads, and a lot of spare weapons. We're in good shape. And we're getting close to the exit. Oh, we're at a dead end though. Oh, ooh, flat cannons are fun. But we already have pretty good weapons, so. Okay, so let's see. Here's an axe. Let's chop through the walls. Look at that. I chopped through the walls. You know what's around the corner? The exit. Ha! Map sense. That's where map sense gets you. You can do stuff like that. So we just left the early game. That's it. we're done with the early game. 6 weapons is crazy, but we're not actually going to play this. We are in the factory now. Okay. Self-destructing. Yeah, I didn't get the engines piece and completely forgot. Okay, back in the early game again. Let's see if we meet any new kinds of situations. I'm going to do, some more runs here. Pick up all the guns and all this stuff. Let's see, grab spare treads are good to carry around. And you can technically, again, pick everything up. That's why I added the storage there to start, is so that you can literally collect everything in this floor, and that's why there's an option to do that now. All right, we started in the top center of the map. Let's head west rather than going through the center of the map. Okay, there's some enemies coming. Look at that, large storage. Nice. What a nice start. Pretty much all the starts are nice. Oh, I pulled back in too far. That's dumb, but it's okay. We're going to do fine anyways, just 2 guys. Get in your face and destroy you. Dropped all the wheels. Just kill that guy. I'm gonna make him go away anyway. Oh, we have too many engines. Don't want to carry too many engines. Oh, okay. Hi, Alio guy. How many weapon slots would you typically go for? So yeah, this depends on your build strategy. But if you're a combat builds will do either a 2 or 3 weapon slot low weapon slot combat build, or a 4 to 5 weapon slot high slot combat build. You normally don't go beyond 5. You can, and it's fun and it works, but it's harder to manage. So it depends on your combat strategy, or no combat. If you're not doing any combat at all, 2 is fine. Or if you do very little combat. Like anyone who's not a combat build will generally go with just 2 slots. Some might go with 3. All right. One thing about this, the reason I took the mines last time is because literally the way the way it was designed is in the early game, or really in the whole game, as you are exploring, you're more likely to come across branch exits before you find the actual exits. It kind of gets you going into branches, whether intentionally or not. So again, this is the mines. We can tell that because there's this special room with some matter pods and it looks different. So that's the mines. We're not going to do that this time though, because I want to go through the mines every time. I already showed kind of what that's like. And that's enough for now. So again, we lost our weapon. Wow, we're down to 2 weapons. It's kind of low. We should get some more weapons. Took him out. Did he drop a weapon? He did. He dropped his small laser. We lost another weapon. But we picked up that other guy's small laser, so we're back to 2 weapons again. So this is one of the biggest dangers of the first floors, is running entirely out of propulsion or losing all of your weapons. So we gotta have spares. Right now, we're actually in a bad situation because all we have are 2 crappy weapons and they're both damaged. We'll probably be fine. And you can also ram guys too. There's not many items around here though. Oh shoot, now we have to go back through the center of the map. Ooh. Or, wait a minute, don't we have anything else? Oh, this is a different run. We're playing so many different runs, I'm forgetting what we've got here. We don't have a way through the wall. So we do not have that. So in this kind of situation, we could wait for those reinforcements to come. They're just coming around at the terminal. It's just to the east of us. Or we can head all the way back to where we were earlier and head. We're going to have to head through the center probably anyway, though. So whatever. Let's just go east. Hopefully we'll find something. All right. Ooh, bad room. All right, I'm going to wait here for that grunt. Hopefully we'll take his laser. But unfortunately, we only have 1 weapon left. Oh, he got blocked. All right, the grunt is going around to the north, and we only have 1 weapon left, so I'm going to run and look for more weapons. Oh, shoot, he's got up. Luckily, our weapon is... it's got pretty high coverage. Oh, no, that's bad. Okay, so what do you do in a situation like this? This happens a lot to early game players because sometimes it's unavoidable. Even if you play really well. I haven't been playing really well, actually, because I'm playing fast, but if we're going to lose our weapon here, we're not going to have anything to fight with. You can ram enemies, but that really can mess up your core. So in a situation like this, in the early game, you can really just run once you have some general map sense, if you're following the edges of the map, like I was talking about, you'll be able to leave, and you have a lot of propulsion, spare propulsion and stuff. You'll be able to get out of the map before you're dead. Like, look, see, the exit's around the corner. So we can just run south and we'll make it out fine. They're going to get hurt on the way, but let's see. I'm going to put on a, we're pretty overweight, so I'm going to use a wheel because we're going to now move faster. They're going to kill each other though too, which is something they do. And if we wanted, see, that's the other thing. If there's a bunch of enemies, other than ramming them, depending on your positioning, they'll accidentally kill each other. And you can pick up their guns and their other weapons and stuff. We could pick up this gun right now and shoot back. In fact, I didn't want to do that. Oh, there's the grunt though. I'm going to pick up his weapon, but I'm still going to run. This is so we go into the next floor maybe with a weapon. Anyway, so that's a rough start. But all right, so I already showed the 4-weapon start. So now I'm going to go back to more kind of a general start here with, let's see, what have we got? We've got another leg we can put on, or treads. So I'll just switch back to legs. Oh, we have a storage units and we have no spare weapon. But again, when you go into a regular floor, there are no enemies nearby, and there's no one chasing you. So you're kind of safe for a little while. Maybe not too long, but for a little while, and you can check out some nearby rooms. And that's going to help us here because, well, could have helped us there. There's nothing in that room, but nothing out here either. All right, there's some armor. There's a whole lot of heavy armor down here. Oh, it looks like we found a cache. Okay. No weapons, though. Oh, but look at these armored treads. Basically, if you find one of these caches as a new player, use all that stuff you can. I'm going to put on all the armored treads. Those are going to protect us very, very well. These are excellent treads. We don't even need the legs anymore. Our inventory is going to make a bunch of space so that I can pick up all this heavy armor. Check that out. Wow, look at that. We've got now heavy armor plating. Look at that. Our coverage is now very good. Pick up more heavy armor. Or is also reflective. That would help us against lasers, but I'll just go with the heavy armor. All right, so we're in good shape. This is, I mean, other than the fact that our weapon is bad, but hard light generator and pests. Okay, we're gonna get spotted here. Not necessarily didn't have to get spotted, but I'm gonna pull in here and actually fight them with the assault rifle. We could technically, wouldn't really want to run at this point, but... Oh shoot, alright, there's doors to the east, wow. Alright, so there's a weapon on the ground. The other guys went around the other way. We now have 2 weapons already. See, we took out that one guy. Okay, here's another thing. This guy has not spotted us yet, just appeared. He didn't have an exclamation mark pop up, and we don't see it in the scan window, so he is probably escorting that guy. We can kind of tell because they appear together. If we fight from here, he's going to spot us when he comes around here, around the corner or something. But if we ram this guy and push into the room, he won't know we're here because they can't hear anything. So I'm just going to ram that guy and fight inside this room. We now have 2 weapons also. And our weapons are less likely to be blown off now because we've got this heavy armor, which is taking almost all the shots. So there we go, we took them out. And we are now getting back into one piece. That guy could still be to the east, but I don't really care. I'm just going to go over here anyway. Oh, look, there's more of them. Okay, now we have another spare weapon. We have a spare weapon, and their friend is here. Oh, okay, let's take him out. Alrighty. So, anyway, once you hit those caches, you're in pretty good shape. We're not going to have any problems here. Oh, there's an explosive trap back there. Ooh, and an alarm trap. And it looks like there's a storage cache to the east. You can tell by the shape of that room. Alright, fine, I'll pull back. I guess it'd be nice to have their weapons as backup too, even though they carry the worst weapons. Even light assault rifles are better than a small laser, which is what early grunts use. Okay, let's see. Take their core. Might as well grab a heatsink for later. And there is the exit. And so why do we hit the exit? Again, map sense, we follow the edge of the map. Follow the edge of the map, find the exit. This will improve your survivability in the early game so much. Is just following the edges of the map. So what we don't yet have is a launcher. We now have 4 armored treads. Sheesh. All right. I'm going to pull back because it's a big open room. We don't want to fight in the open. Oh, great. Okay, more reinforcements. That's okay. Hey, there's a shotgun here. Those are nice. Against swarmers especially. I probably shouldn't have stepped south. I should have waited in the doorway. But I wanted to pick up the swarm shotgun, so instead I'll pull in here, put on the shotgun, and shoot these guys. Oh, they still hit me. Oh, that's right. We have an extra slot we can put something in. Let's put on the heatsink. This is easier to fight in a doorway. Try not to fight swarms in the open just because of how tiny they are. You need every advantage you can get against them. So staring them down in a doorway is nice. All right, that's probably could be the reinforcements, or it's a patrol. This happens to be a big open area. So this time we'll sit in the doorway. Heavy armor. We're in great shape. I'm just going to wait here. They'll show up eventually. Where'd he go? What are they doing? I've been waiting here a whole long time. That was interesting. And there's a grunt around the corner. Yeah, okay. That was kind of weird. Sometimes they do interesting, different things. For some reason. If you have sensors, you can generally tell why they're doing what they're doing. Alright, we've killed 3 guys now, and the 4th is... Oh, that's right, there's swarmers too. Okay, there's a particle gun. Sure, we'll pick it up. We need extra guns. And another assault rifle. Okay, so that big room is done with. More advanced treads. Those are actually fast. We could even speed ourselves up a bit. Well, they're not fast, but they're faster. Okay, so again, all right, we start on the bottom right of the map here on the edge. We could head west along the edge or north along the edge. I've chosen north. Not for any particular reason in this case. Actually, shotguns are actually very poor weapons to use against sentries. Guess we'll go with this particle gun. Wait right here real quick. So waiting around a corner, that's something I haven't actually mentioned before. Waiting around a corner is an effective strategy too. For example, once he gets here, we already have a bonus for standing still for 2 turns, and he comes around the corner. Yeah, we lose a little bit because he's moving, but we also have that bonus, and he's in our face suddenly. So we have an instant, really much higher hit chance. Okay, let's see. Pulse rifle, heavy particle cannon. All right, we're going with, again, the high storage. High storage is kind of an easy way to start because we're just going to have so many spares of everything. Heavy EM pulse gun is nice. Now, I kind of want to head along the edge of the map. So I'm trying to see, is there a room on the other side of this one? Because if there is, we could like run through the other room, but there is not. If there was a way of past there, we could just keep going along the edge, but it looks like we're going to have to go back to this point in order to keep traveling. All right. Okay, so I'm going to take just a minute break here, and then I'm going to continue this. We're going to do We're going to do several more runs. I mean, each of these only takes, again, it only takes 10 minutes or less to get out of the early game. So I'm going to be doing several more of these, and probably we'll encounter a couple more new situations to talk about. I'll be right back. Okay, back in action. Where were we here? We were headed north. Whoops, gotta get in the window here. We're headed north along this. Maybe I've been using the keyboard, but I'm gonna switch back to using the mouse just because it might be easier for players to follow. I'm not gonna bother with the watcher strategy-wise. I don't mind leaving them. Some people like to shoot them. I play a little slower with the mouse because I'm not used to using it. Plus, some things are a little slower with it. Wow, okay. I just stepped on an alarm, and then an operator told them we're here. Oh, come on. Right, okay, we're blocked. There, now we're not blocked. Yes, we are. Oh. Okay, so I could fight him from this corridor, but you know what? I think I want to do it from the room instead. You could tell this was a room. Oh, there's the operator. Because if we fought from there, it'd be kind of dangerous. It's out in the open. This is safer. There you are. I just waited for them to show up. Okay. All right, that's a problem with... that was dumb. That's not something you normally want to do. If you have a good defensive position, using cannons will... Well, it blows away the wall when you miss. And so we now have... It's now open to everyone. So we've lost our defensive advantage. Yeah. Anyway, it's not going to be an issue, but something to be aware of. Let's do this differently. An engineer might repair it. We lost our heavy armor, but we got some more. Oh, shoot. Overheating. That's not good. Our armor plus this weapon. Oh, we're firing. These weapons are too hot. Way too hot. We need to not do that. I am actually going to put in a heatsink just for a second, because otherwise, with grunts shooting at you, their thermal damage raises your heat temperature as well. So it's kind of a bad idea. So anyway, I want to switch to kinetic weapons for a little while, and I'm just gonna like shoot you. Oh, he's almost dead too. All right. Those guys came because we shot an engineer. They were dispatched as reinforcements. When that happens, you probably want to leave the area unless you want to just kill the reinforcements, which is fine too. Okay, so this is the really bad stuff that can happen. This is the kind of stuff that, you know, if you play it wrong, this can actually kill experienced players too. Situations like this, especially because we have no launcher right now. Right now, a good answer would be launcher. Just pull back to this direction and fire a launcher. But, yeah, so this is the kind of thing where a newer player would almost certainly get driven into the ground. Let's see, there's this room, defensive positions, there's not much. So normally, I was playing stupid there anyway. Normally, you would have killed these two guys because we weren't... If there's an enemy chasing you and you're not 100%, you're pretty much guaranteed to escape them, you need to take them out. And so these two guys should have been taken out already before we went up here. I was just fooling around though. So, now that I think about it, there's still probably an exit if we had gone southeast too. They came through that hidden door. Yeah, there's an exit over here. There's an exit right here. I can tell that because there's no doors here that connect into this whole part of the map. There was a hidden door. And these guys were dispatched just a second ago, and they arrived through that door, which means they came from an exit over here. They could have come from a garrison, but either one of them is out there. It's quite likely there's an exit. All right, so how do you deal with this situation? I would head southeast. First, I think I would put my armor back on. In fact, we're going to do that. Now we've got our armor on to protect us. There's just more and more guys pouring out of here. So this is where you really want to launch it. All right, well, we've got good treads. So if we turn off our weapons, we can actually ram this guy. So we're now in a good fighting position. We could fight from this doorway. Or we can continue retreating to the exit, which I think is over there. So either one would work. I'm going to retreat because I'm curious what's over there. But we could fight all these guys from this doorway. We have so much armor, though. It's fine. Okay, we lost the armor. Oh, shoot. It doesn't go there. It goes over there. Okay, now we should have fought. All right, let's see. There's heat shield and combat battery. All right, there's the egg. There might be... Wow, they came from... I don't have an exit. So anyway, there still might be some other stuff up there, though. That's kind of interesting. Okay, now we have to fight them, for sure. Power source. Utility slots. We have nothing else to attach in utility. Oh, yeah, we have a heatsink. All right, I'll put on a heatsink. That's going to help because we're going to put in our heavy EM pulse guns. No. These have a narrow spectrum. These are quite likely to take out cores. So that might be a bad idea to start with those. I would suggest starting with this and the pulse rifle. All right. Now we don't have to fight a bunch of people at once. Oh, whoops. Particle cannon, maybe not. Well, it'd be... Yeah, we shouldn't be firing the particle cannon. Particle gun is what I mean. Yes, particle gun. 231 matter left. Keeping an eye on that. Hey, Merciful Hacker. Oh yeah, you're welcome. I've really wanted to do this stream for a while. I've been thinking about it for months and months. I just never got around to it. I kept doing different runs, and I don't know. I finally got up the. I don't know. I've seen a number of beginning players saying they're having trouble in the early game, and I know that I could condense pretty well, you know, the ways to get through it. So finally went ahead and did this. Yeah, these same strategies too will help you through the middle game and beyond, really, once you've got all these basics down. Then it's more about picking, then you get into more detailed builds and branch work and stuff like that. And for that, you can check out, talk with the community, how to deal with that stuff. Let's see, heatsink on the ground. Sorry, we're going to run out of weapons soon. Oh, well, we have the pulse guns. I guess we'll be fine. An idea I was going to say is when you've got a situation like this where there's a ton of parts on the ground and you really need what they're going to drop, like we might need a weapon if they drop it, it's going to drop pretty far away because there's stuff on the floor. So we could use this opportunity to literally pick up this stuff on the floor and make space for more things to drop. Just because we're in this tight space here. Anyway, there's a lot of enemies out here, but I think we're going to be fine. Well, I know we're going to be fine. We've got a lot of stuff. Oh, shoot. Now we're out of power. Okay, that's not cool. Out of power is not good. Or now negative. Net negative. Heat shield and compact battery. We're going to still have to fight the hunter, which is out there. But this is pretty much the worst kind of situation you can be in. There's a power source right there. That's what we needed. I'm going to pull back and grab the power source. But anyway, overall, this whole situation that we've seen through this is pretty much as bad as materials gets. All right, so I fired the pulse gun, and that's what happens when you do that. We just lost our defenses. So if we're going to lose them, we might as well lose them big. Oh, shoot. Our energy hasn't had time to build back up again. So gotta wait a second here. We're going to lose our treads shortly, which will be pretty bad. We have just enough energy to fire. No, I wanted to do that. Oh well. This engineer is trying to repair stuff and right next to us, and I'm trying to grab the thing that's under him. I want that leg, because we're going to need it in a moment. Ah, fine, I'll shoot this guy. There, I shot him for you. You can close the door now. He's in there repairing away. The thing about hunters is they can shoot you through other enemies and walls and stuff, so that's kind of, well, through allies. Yeah, Merciful Hacker. That's a good way to... Merciful Hacker is saying he's taken my suggestion and generated a seed and replay the same seed over and over, and that helps avoid getting mobbed and killed. Yeah, you can learn other basics that way. So that's another thing you can try if you're having trouble in the early game, besides changing the difficulty level. But But yeah, you can survive a whole ton. So hey, laughing boat. Yeah, there's you can survive really far with just a core, or even just in very bad shape. You just got to really try and keep that core covered, though. And like right now, we're running out of propulsion, so that's the biggest thing I'd be worried about. I picked up that leg on the ground, and there's more legs in here. So we're just gonna have to take out these two hunters, and that's gonna be annoying. But they're gonna retreat because this engineer is in the way. The engineer is gonna stand here. He's just gonna keep going down this hallway, fixing the walls. So the hunters are actually gonna go all the way around the other way, which means it's gonna give us an opportunity to rebuild. I'm waiting a certain number of turns for the hunters to go far, far away. And I'm thinking about I'm going to shoot this guy. It's probably going to piss them off, though. They're going to call for more help, probably. Alright, never mind. He didn't call for help. Alright, we're going to get our stuff now. Here we go. Damaged legs, damn. Oh, here comes the drone. That drone was sent out by the hunters. That's not something you normally see in the early game. That would be more of a mid-game thing. But he went back to tell the hunters where we are. His drone found us. But we're here picking up more weapons and stuff, and you're gonna like not do that. He just stole our stuff. So he took that leg, and we do not want him to get away with our leg. So I'm picking up the wheel as well, and I really want that leg, but it's not worth walking out into the open for, because we're going to take a lot of hits there. So I'm going to pull back and take everyone out who's coming in the rear. This guy's coming, apparently. All right, we're being shot by two different hunters. They're both firing through the wall. So the good thing about hunters is, a strategy for fighting hunters is if they're shooting through the walls, try and get it so that one of them is shooting at you. It's you can hit one of them, but the other one is shooting you through a wall, because the wall acts as armor, basically. And now he can't even shoot us. The other one's going to walk over here and start shooting through the walls. But the walls block some of the shots because they don't penetrate 100%. Okay, so let's put on some propulsion and some power. So the hunter is sitting up here shooting us through a wall. This one's damaged, so I'm going to shoot the hunter first. Notice how I'm just repeatedly attaching parts. Not gonna bother like sitting here fighting them half strength. That's a really bad way to go. Okay. Alright, we have one hunter left and then everyone's dead. He's gonna keep firing. We can't hit him though because we don't have a penetrating weapon. So the only way to shoot him is to get him to either come towards us or charge him. I'm gonna pull back. Now he's gonna charge us. And now he's going to open the door. While he does that, I'm going to pull out the particle cannon and wait for him. Let's attach some more stuff. There we go. See, we're fully covered now, even though we're not using the wheels. But our inventory is pretty much empty. So where did he just left? What is he doing? Wow, he decided to go the other way. Okay, good job, Hunter. Grab a heat sink. And his leg is still sitting here. Nice. So this has been a much more eventful starting area. And part of the reason for that is I made a stupid tactical error, which I pointed out. So we're going to head back out here. It's kind of dangerous going back out here, if only because this is obviously kind of a thoroughfare I was talking about earlier, thoroughfares. But we've already taken out so many enemies, and a lot of them were patrols that I think will be fine. There is still that hunter to deal with. I'm going to wait for him right here. Hello, hunter. You blew out your own door. And now you're dead. Okay, he drops good stuff, though, so we're going to take his legs. He dropped one of his legs. Unfortunately, he didn't drop... Oh, there's a hacking suite on the ground here. An operator got destroyed here. They dropped their hacking suite. Hacking suites are nice if you want to hack. Naturally. I'm going to put on a targeting computer. We don't need double heating, double cooling. Oh yeah, this is a bad corridor. You can see all the little green bots. Oh man, he's doing a good number. Whoa, he took out the hauler for us. It's nice to aim, just kind of let them shoot each other. All right, so now we're going to get some, actually, I want to protect our core a little more, so I'm going to just get rid of the targeting and put on some armor. And there's an ARC just opened to the east of us. More armor. What is he? Dropped a bunch of armor. I'm going to walk over here and pick that armor up. And then I'm going to walk here and we're going to pick up the power source. And then walk to the south and pick up the treads. And I'm going to put on the treads, I guess. Just so we have some of that. Let's see, let's put on this big fat deuterium engine. So, like I was saying, this is kind of a bad place to be walking through. But anyway. Let's see, what weapons do we have? Oh shoot, we're almost out of weapons. Damn. This bruiser is going to hurt. I don't want to fire a cannon here. But we're out of weapons, so we're going to fire the cannon. Alright, bruiser's dead. Give me weapons, so I can give you death. Alright, so we've got a lot of stuff here. A lot of armor. A lot of good power sources. And look at our core. Because I've been keeping it covered, even despite all this fighting, our core is, you know, it's barely even half gone. And we're in good shape here. We're way overweight, but that's, well, not way overweight. We're only one, but we're in good shape. Grab another leg. Oh, it's another friend. I wasn't even watching the screen. It often happens when I'm just streaming and talking at the same time. I was paying a little less attention then. Oh, shoot. I don't really want to fight this guy in the open. Those are our last two weapons. Shoot, 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 shoot. Pulling back's a bad idea, though. Alright, I'm just going to shoot him anyway. Alright, that's what I'm talking about. Take this guy out for me. I want him to kill the hauler. Oh, shoot. He just took off our other weapon. Yep, there's the exit. Follow the edges of the map, they say. So we came it took us a while, but we followed the edge of the map all the way up to here and we found the exit. So, we're going to take your gun. We're going to take your armor. And, oh look, there's a heavy particle cannon, there's heavy particle cannons, all kinds of stuff in there. Anyway, we don't need to go in there though. That's it. That's the end of the early game. We only encountered a little bit of trouble at the end there. Alrighty, so you can catch up on the chat real quick. You can see get some answers there. B-Sen's helping out with the answers. No, there's nothing like that, Laughing Boat. If you move at an angle, there's no accuracy change like that. It's just a specific Doom RL mechanic. Moving at an angle does not cost more either. Yeah, it's the same. So anyway, we're not even playing this. What am I doing? All right, let's go back. I'm going to self-destruct. Back to the early game. Here we go again. I'm going to switch back to keyboard for this part here so that I can do this a little more quickly than what I'm used to anyway. Technically, you can, if you really want to, you can shoot this guy and get another storage spot. If he drops it. You might not. But it's not really worth it. I mean, you're going to get better stuff and more anyway. But you can, you'll drop they use a storage unit. You can grab a small storage unit from them. Alrighty, so top side of the map. This is notice the first materials map is very small. It's much smaller than the other two, and much smaller than most of the maps in the game. Oh god. Okay, so if you find something like that, nearest door. Whoops, misclicked. Anyway, so yeah, once you have your defensive position, those guys are nothing. If we fought them in the hallway, they would have shot off all of our weapons, almost for sure. Fighting swarmers in the open is very deadly. Gonna go east, that's gonna be our path. Oh, check it out. Grenade launcher. Grenade launcher and... Let's see, the targeting computer? And that's probably good enough. Hover unit. Again, don't use hover. Even expert players can have trouble with hover. It's a very high-level play propulsion type. Light cannons are very good in the early game. They can kill most enemies in one hit. They're very powerful. So definitely pick those up. But we have to drop something. I'm going to drop the treads. Oh, the exit is to the north. There it is. All right, so again, we just followed the edge of the map. We're going to be out of materials in no time. I'll go again with the basic kind of start I was talking about. One propulsion, one utility. Oh, good night, Merciful Hacker. Yeah, I'll put the rest on YouTube. Actually, we're pretty much going to end here shortly. We're gonna stop here in a little bit. Not too long from now. I've already covered pretty much everything I wanted to cover. The rest of this is just answering any questions you might have or fighting. Just going through the early game really quick. This might be the last one if it's long. If it's short, I'll do another one. Oh yes, we have more slots now. We can take your armor. All right, there's an operator. I'm just going to ignore it. I don't really care. You can call for reinforcements. Sure, do what you want. And here comes a squad. That's not the reinforcements. Where's the other guy? Maybe there's a hauler. It looks like a hauler escort because there's only one. So I'm just going to shoot him from here. Ooh, medium armor. We still don't have any extra storage. Be good to grab. Oh, there's a small storage unit. We'd have to drop our targeting, but you know what? Early game targeting is not quite as useful. Unless you get the improved one. That's just entry level. So I'm just going to grab that so we can pick up a beam rifle. I'm just doing all this even though we're being shot at because I just don't care. We did lose a power source. Guess we should pick another one up. Well, we have one in inventory. It should be enough. This is the early game. You don't have to worry too much about power. I'm going to pull back and fight them in here. And we're going to attach power and just wait. Very effective tactic in the early game. Pull off the treads, put on another leg. Replace that with a better leg. Whoops. Oh, I already grabbed it. Okay, let's see. There's a small laser. Alright, our inventory is full, so I think we're good. There's a hauler. Could take him out if we wanted some extra stuff. I don't really need extra stuff, but there's katanas to the south. And flat cannons. Oh my gosh. Let's grab this stuff. Yeah. Double flat cannon. Pushes him back. And kills him, of course. Now that is some nice stuff. Again, storage caches. Take it. Also, I always want a melee weapon, so I'm definitely going to pick up one of these. Drop the treads, grab the katana. We could get 2 katanas and just like go slashing away. There's even actuator arrays. If we had 4 weapon slots right now, I would definitely pick up 4 katanas and attach at least 1 actuator array. We just like slice through everyone. Oh, spread lasers. Hey guys. Ho ho, that pushed him way back. If you push enemies back into each other, they take damage too. And if you push them into machines, they take damage. And you can push them into explosive machines and it blows up on them. So anyway, pushback is knockback is fun. Can replace our stuff. And I just checked this room, but yeah, I was intending to check this corner because that follows the edge of the map. And obviously we have found the exit. Oh, an alarm. Hey look, somebody has showed up right when the alarm went off. Get off my exit. Goodbye. Don't need to fight him. No reason. Wouldn't do anything for us. I'm going to go with 1 weapon and 1 utility. Let's mix up just a little bit for the last one. We can go with triple flat cannons, which is kind of nasty. Let's see, what kind of utilities do we have? If you control right-click on a spot, it will show you what you can put in that spot, which is kind of nice if you have a big inventory. You don't have to actually look through the inventory for stuff that'll fit or be appropriate. And you can also do it on equipped items. Control right-click, and it shows you what you can swap in for that flak cannon. Or you can just left-click on an unused slot and attach something. A lot of different options. And you can do all this stuff in keyboard mode as well through multiple different methods. Yeah, we do need another weapon, I guess. Well, I'm going to see if there's anything in these rooms first. First you got to check where you are. Top center of the map. All right, let's go east then. Oh, hello guys. Threat detected. Well, considering what they are, let's just fire a whole bunch of black cannons. Took out 2 of them in 1 volley. Use a lot of bullets. Hey, drop your stuff. These use a lot of matter though, so I won't pick up some of that matter. Alright, make sure we get enough spare. We got a spare engine. Actually, I'll take an extra. 3 flak cannons, it's kind of crazy. OP early game build. Alright, nuclear core, don't mind if I do. Let's wait for our Mr. Friend the Sentry. Hello. Alright, the exit should be close. Wait, oh no, not yet. We're not far enough away. We'd have to get further. Oh, there was a cannon there. Improved light cannon. Anyway. We still don't have any... What did we lose? Here it is. You can open this. Oh, we lost our armor. We don't have any extra armor. Can go back and see. Look for the red lines for the bad, really bad stuff. That'll include a list of anything you've lost. We lost our armor there. I wasn't paying attention. What else is there? Matter pod, a heavy mace. Alright, I guess I'll go get the cannon real quick. Get out of my way, little guy. Oh. Don't have enough... Alright, drop the light cannon. Okay, looks like we're going to have to go south through sort of kind of the middle area, middle-ish area. The exit's probably to the east here. There it is. And we made it out of the early game. Improved targeting computer. Ooh. So I would definitely attach that. And then go into the early game, or the mid-game. Mid-game it is. Weapon slots? No, we don't need weapon slots. All right, I'll play one more run. Let's commit a little self-destruction there. Restart. Here we go. Time for one last early game run. Switch off real quick. Oh my gosh, look at that. That's a nice start. This is not an uncommon start. It's very nice as well. But we don't have any storage to carry all this stuff. Oh my gosh. All right, we're going to have to find some storage units and come back and pick this up. I mean, technically we could replace some things now. Oh, there's armor. Wow. All right. Let's drop some stuff now, actually. I'm going to drop all of my propulsion. It's not the greatest idea, but again, I'm not really showing the best strategies right now for everyone to use. I'm just kind of showing now at the very end how you can crush the early game. Whoops. I should not stick with the mouse. I keep wanting to switch back to keyboard, but... right, we got enemies coming. We know what that means. People to kill, targets. Hey guys. If you're in firing mode, if you click on an enemy and you can't tell whether they're too far away, you can also press this V here. That's your volley range. Or hit the V on your keyboard. In fact, you can hit V on the keyboard even if you're not in volley mode. But with the mouse, you have to first first enter targeting mode before the V can appear, because it's a different interface. So yeah, he's dead. See, signal interpreters, that would tell you where an exit is if you're having trouble identifying exits. A lot of these. Let's see. Oh, I still need to put on an engine. Let's just drop the small laser and pick up all EMP blasters. These are actually really effective. With an EMP blaster, you can pretty much just like use them on everything in the first few floors and they'll all just die. Not immediately though, that's the thing about EMP blasters. Oh, there's an EMP. It will take extra. Actually, let's grab some extra armor. Okay, let's leave. Wait, where are we? Bottom right corner of the map. I'm going north. I'm hiding behind a terminal to force him to come closer. Gave us better aim. Grab some matter, head north. Looking around. Following the edge of the map. Again, we headed north across the edge there, and now we're headed here. Looks like we're close to the exit. The exit is probably just right around this corner. There it is. Out of this floor. Goodbye. Again, I'm going to do the basic kind of safe start. Go, go, go. Terminal, we're not doing any hacking. That would be for another stream, maybe by someone else too. Oh shoot, there's a sentry in here. Okay then. Well, oh shoot, I guess we should attach more stuff as well. Didn't realize that. Well, just playing quickly. Let's see. We have armor. Ooh, more armor. All right, we have a lot of armor now. Let's do... So sometimes sentries, one thing a lot of newer players don't notice is resistances yet. Sentries are very resistant against explosives. So you don't really want to use grenades on these guys. They will just eat your grenades and keep firing at you. Not very effective, but they are not good against EMPs. So now he's dead. You too. He's getting corrupted because we're using electromagnetic damage, so he's having trouble shooting us. He's gonna miss. He misfired. He misfired there and didn't hit very well. Okay. Done with that bunch of guys. Autogun is pretty nice when you stack them. I like the stacking autoguns in the early game. It's kind of like stacking heavy assault rifles. Grab some of that. Grab some of that. Let's take his armor. Replace... we could replace our armor. Auto replace. Better engine or less damaged engine by just clicking on ourselves there. Where do we start here? All right, we're headed. You're going to do a south. Going to head straight south along the edge of the map. You guys are going to last pretty... Oops. You guys aren't going to last very long. Grenades are more effective against these guys, but they also have a shorter range. Ooh, took out one of their engines. There's a sentry down there. There he is. He's standing on an exit. Or he was. Now there are two of them, even more effective for long-range weaponry. Took out an engine, and they're all dead. Wow, took out another engine. You can actually take out engines on the floor with EMPs, because as area effect, they damage floor stuff as well. Hey, you got large storage unit, nice. Take your armor and all of your matter. Gotta remember to fill up on matter after confrontations. Pick up an assault rifle. Sure, we'll just pick up all these weapons because we got space now. This might not lead out to the next floor, though. This probably leads to the mines. So I'm going to keep looking. I think the regular exit is probably to the south. No. Yeah, we're at a dead end. Oh, well. Oh, well. I just take that exit anyway. We can handle the mines. We've got everything we need. Oh, that's right. We're short on propulsion slots. I mean, propulsion stuff. I haven't been paying attention to that. Got to keep propulsion in good shape. Now our propulsion is going to be in great shape. We could attach more treads. Then we won't be overweight on legs. And keep the... Now we're not overweight anymore, which means it makes us about as fast as being overweight on legs. Alright, so we're in the mines now, as expected. And one of the things about going into branches is you can get ambushed. Remember, I've said a couple times so far that when you go into regular floors, if you go into these regular floors straight up the center in the world map, you're not only that, the complex maps, any maps that belong to the main complex. This is a kind of a cave type map, different branch. So you're not protected against ambushes, but the game mechanics protect you against ambushes in the main maps. But now we're headed west through a branch, so we didn't evolve. And I have EMP blasters attached, which is kind of funny. Whatever, I guess I'll just fire them. This actually hurts me too, but I'm a lot more powerful than them. And I got more and more armor, so I don't really care. The thing is, when you face a group of enemies, even a point-blank grenade can be fine. Or a missile. Just hit them in your face. And didn't do that all the time, but if you have to, I mean, it's fine. Because you're a lot stronger than they are. I'm gonna grab a heatsink, just because we don't have one at all as well. And let's keep searching around. Heavy hammer. Ooh, there's a spare a little old rocket launcher sitting here. We don't really need it though. We have grenades. I like grenades. There's no telling what else you might meet in here. So all kinds of interesting encounters. Oh, those were explosive machines. Right. Using EMPs like this is not like optimal, but you know, whatever. I'm just doing it for fun. This is the last run, after all. Well, they didn't leave much behind, but that's what you get when you're hit by explosive machines. Oh. Anyway, there's a terminal we can like log into it and like there's stuff behind the door and whatever, but I'm not doing that. Fun, good stuff. You can explore on your own when you dive into the mines. But here is the exit, which will take us up to the next floor, where I'm going to go 2 weapons this time, just for fun with it. So as you can see here, looking at the last time on the map, we went out into a branch, but now we're back to the main floor, which is where we got to evolve again. That restored our core, cleared our corruption. We are in good shape. We're in the bottom center of the map. We can go any way we want. Let's follow some edges. We can attach weapons now, too. Completely overkill. That guy is going to report us. This is probably his terminal. So what we're going to do is destroy his terminal. See, he turned green. That means he can no longer have a way to report us. And we, just with that one shot, we don't have to deal with reinforcements. Enhanced autogun. It's an ion cannon. And a sensor array. Guess we'll pick up the sensor array. This is, alright, this is the end of the early game though, it's the last floor, so. Not much longer yet. Two centuries approaching. Took their treads. We're doing mostly fighting anyway, so it's really easy and nice to restock with them. You can just shoot them to get them out of the way, or you can try and crush them. Run over them with your treads. And again, following the edge of the map, we found an exit. This guy's going to his terminal, which is right there. He could end up calling reinforcements in through this door, or we can shoot him. But again, see, as I was telling you earlier, it's hard to take them out in one shot. Terminal, this terminal has 25 armor. It's kind of big. We could have destroyed it if I'd pulled out another weapon, pulled out like my grenades and fired a grenade at it. But I don't really care. He's just going to call for reinforcements, and we are just going to head into the mid game. There it is, the 444, kind of a nice mid game loadout. So that is how you own the early game. If you notice, we've gone through the early game now, I don't know, a total of 5 times, something like that. I don't know. I think it's been about 5 times. And it's pretty easy. There was one time when things got really dangerous, but even that, you know, with using the right tactics and a lot of the same tactics that I was talking about throughout the whole first part, it wasn't too hard to overcome. So let's see. I want to mention. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty much the end of this how to own the early game thing. I am going to exit real quick though and show. Let's show the folders, I guess. Just because there might be some things in there, some of the newer players won't know. So we're done with that. Here we go. This is Cogmind's folder. So when you're done, the scores go into the game directory under scores. So we can see, I did 5 runs there. These are all the 5 runs we just did, and you can click on them, see all your scores and stuff. The score data was also, if you turn it on your options, it's also uploaded to the leaderboards, which are updated once per day. And you can also, all of the screenshots you've taken will appear here. These are all screenshots from my other games that I haven't deleted yet. Recent runs. I didn't take any screenshots just now though. So yeah, you can find your screenshots there. Just hit print screen and they go there. Or F12 works as well, because that's the kind of the Steam key for doing that. So works in Cogmind as well. And technically, there's actually an advanced command. You can hold Shift Alt M. There's no button for it yet in the game. It's one of only 3 actions, rare special actions, where there is no key. No button you can click on with a mouse. But if you do that, screenshot maps will contain a picture of the entire map you're exploring. Not revealed. It shows the parts you've revealed already. So some people like to use that for strategy, strategy talk, showing it to other players, or just thinking about map layouts. It's pretty useful. So the other thing that I really wanted to point out that was under the user directory. I was talking a lot about the advanced options. You can go to the user directory, advanced config, open that up, and you'll find options like I was just talking about. Search for border, and here you got show map borders. I have that set to 1. Which is why I could see the map borders without reaching them. And that might be off. That is off by default, so a lot of players won't have that on unless you know about this advanced feature. All the experienced players will know if you play on with the Discord crowd. But you might want to turn that on. And if you look in the manual, all of these options have descriptions in the manual, so if you're not sure what it means. And some of them are really useful. There are a lot of QOL options, a lot of feature requests that I added because they were easy to do and help certain players. So there's a lot of stuff in here you can change. So look in the manual if you want a description of all of these, or just open it up and kind of read them. They have descriptive explanations. So yeah, I suggest checking out the advanced options. So let's see here. So yeah, other than this video, beyond it, there's a lot of other videos and special strategy guides and stuff you can look for on the forums. Or really, if you need any just simple questions answered, just stop by the Discord. You can get really good answers there to pretty much any question you'll have. A lot of long-time players and a lot of new players there as well. And you can also get a general advice about how you should proceed in your current run if you just drop a screenshot in there. Because like I was mentioning earlier in this stream, just from a single screenshot of Cogmind, you can tell pretty much the entirety of how a run is going. Because all the info is there. You don't really have to open other windows to get info about your status. So yeah, that's it. For the regulars, I will not be streaming next week. This is part of the reason I chose to do this today, is because this is the last stream day I have before I go on vacation, our annual vacation for Chinese New Year. So I will not be streaming actually for at least another month or so. So I will, however, in that time be working on Beta 8, which is coming along very well. It's just very involved and there's a lot of stuff to do, and yeah, so it's not done yet. I will continue to work on Beta 8 while on vacation as well, but on vacation I won't have an opportunity to stream, and we'll also be taking some days off to hang out with family and stuff, of course. So got to do vacation-y things, but yeah, I'll still be getting work done, but no streams. So I wanted to point that out since we're streaming, and so don't wait up for next week's stream. The next streams I will be getting back to more regular stuff. I might be doing a Deep Caves run from an next stream. Haven't done that before on stream, definitely, and I've only ever done it once, just in a random run I did on my own. So I have very little experience in the Deep Caves. That's a mid-game tough branch for anyone else who doesn't know. I've only been there once before myself, so I've been exploring more of the deeper areas of the game and deeper branches in my latest runs, stuff that I haven't had a chance to do before. So that's one of the things I want to do when I get back. And I got a lot of other streams planned as well, but again, nothing in the near term. And yeah, thanks for playing Spiritfire, and thanks everyone for your support. I'm glad you found it helpful. Hey, Kyle Solo, yeah. Yeah, now you'll be in better shape so you can die later in the game. Yeah. I was actually going to make some jokes about that in the announcement for this stream as well, but I don't know. I didn't want it to I don't want to have any pessimism. I don't want it to be all optimism. But it's true. You're going to start, as you know, you can now own the early game with all this strategy. But once you hit the mid game, you're going to start hitting a few other new obstacles and challenges, and depending on where you go, there's a lot of really hard challenges. So yeah, this is to allow you guys to more quickly reach your death in the mid game. So yeah, thanks everyone for watching, and if you have any more questions, obviously just drop by Discord community there, and I will be back to streaming in a few weeks. So see you all around.